Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Thanks for joining us for today's encouragement from Our Daily Bread. Our reading titled, God's Agents of Peace, was written by Tim Gustafson. Nora went to the peaceful protest because she felt strongly about the issue of justice. As planned, the demonstration was silent. The protesters walked in powerful quietness through the downtown area. Then, 2 buses pulled up. Agitators had arrived from out of town. A riot soon broke out. Heartbroken, Nora left. It seemed their good intentions were fruitless. When the Apostle Paul visited the temple at Jerusalem in Acts 21, people who opposed Paul saw him there. They were from the province of Asia and viewed Jesus as a threat to their way of life. Shouting lies and rumors about Paul, they quickly stirred up trouble. A mob dragged Paul from the temple and beat him. Soldiers came running. As he was being arrested, Paul asked the Roman commander if he could address the crowd. When permission was granted, he spoke to the crowd in their own language, surprising them and seizing their attention. And just like that, Paul had turned a riot into an opportunity to share his story of rescue from dead religion. Some people love violence and division. Don't lose heart. They will not win. God is looking for courageous believers to share his light and peace with our desperate world. What seems like a crisis might be your opportunity to show someone God's love. Today's encouragement was provided by Our Daily Bread Ministries.
Hi, I'm Mark Jobe, president of the Moody Bible Institute. On Bold Steps, my goal is to take you on a path of authenticity in Christ. I've been a pastor for decades in the city of Chicago, and my desire is to bring Bible teaching that is clear, practical, and that pushes people to take bold steps in their walk with God. You can hear Bold Steps weekdays at noon and Sundays at 7 p.m. here on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Serving Sandusky, Cuyahoga, and Ashtabula counties and beyond. This is Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, or stream us anywhere with the Moody Radio app, other streaming services, and at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The Biden administration is moving to close the so-called gun show loophole when it comes to background checks. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The Justice Department estimates that there are around 23,000 unlicensed firearm dealers in the U.S. who will now be required to complete background checks when selling guns. New schedules begin for Akron Metro RTA on Sunday. Time changes have been made to routes 31 and 32. Other minor changes have also been made. Passengers are advised to consult the updated schedules. And charges are pending after several dogs were rescued from deplorable living conditions inside a Euclid home. Police say that on Tuesday, 14 dogs were taken from a home on East 185th Street. The homeowner says renters moved out of the home earlier in the week, leaving the animals with no food or water. I'll have sports and weather in just a moment. From time to time, you will hear the mention of a business or ministry here on Moody Radio Cleveland. These businesses have partnered with WCRF to underwrite some of the costs associated with our broadcasting, which helps us to do more and do it better. If you would be interested in knowing more about underwriting possibilities, contact our station manager, Josh Villa, at 440-526-1111. That's 440-526-1111. Josh would love to hear from you. In sports, the Pirates fell to the Phillies 5-1. The Blue Jackets got blanked by the Panthers 4-0. And the Penguins moved into a playoff spot following a 6-5 overtime win against the Red Wings. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. A wind advisory will be in effect from 11 a.m. this morning to 5 a.m. Saturday in Cuyahoga and Lake counties. Showers likely today with a high near 49. And currently, we have light rain falling across the listening area. 48 the temperature in Cleveland, 46 in Akron and Canton, 44 degrees in Ashtabula.
It's time for your moron moment.
Crispy bread and melted cheese. How could something that tastes so good be this simple? Welcome to National Grilled Cheese Sandwich Day. So, who was the genius behind grilling the combination of cheese and bread to create the grilled cheese sandwich? According to government-issued cookbooks, surprisingly, it is the American Navy who thought of it, or at the very least were the first to publish the recipe. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:03. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine Studio. It's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
6:06 on Mornings with Brian. Happy Friday, everybody. This is not Brian. This is Lauren.
Hi, Lauren. We missed you.
Hi, thank you. Guys, I'm having a really hard time because everything's messed up because one, Dave Stefransky sat here.
Oh, yeah.
All my stuff's messed up. My headphones, my chair, my mic. So if you hear me clanking around, sorry.
It's the worst.
It's Dave's fault.
Well, it takes you forever to get everything just
Yes.
so that you're comfortable, and then if someone else is in your studio, it's like takes you a week to get it
Yes.
back to where
My
it's supposed to
chair's
be.
all weird.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
we're here with Ron and Daria and Pastor Leonard Tanks.
Yeah, yo, what's my theme music?
What's good,
I
yo?
wasn't talking until I heard it, you know?
Yeah, you gotta wait.
It's privilege at this point, you know?
It's your theme music.
Yeah. Ryan, you are, I don't, well, you haven't probably said it in a while, but man, you a beast for that, man. You know what I'm saying?
Ron's a
Well,
legend.
thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
Ron's the
Man,
best.
man, literally put me a theme music together, you know what I'm saying?
I know.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody's ever treated me this good, Ryan.
Hope your wife's not listening.
She's asleep. I'm sure.
Well, thanks for being with us, Pastor Tanks.
For sure.
Happy Friday to everyone. It's follow-up Friday, so the show is yours. What do you want to talk about? We got stuff we talked about this week. We had the eclipse, of course. 2 whole shows with that.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about your experience with the eclipse, I'll go through our topics later. But what do you want to talk about? Do you have something you want to ask a pastor about, but you don't want to ask your pastor for some reason?
Oh.
Or maybe you're not going to church right now. Maybe you're looking for a church and you want to ask a pastor. Text in, call in, 440-546-2255. Brian's out today. He's finishing up his spiritual formation, class.
Yeah. I guess you'd say that.
Yeah.
It's a 2-year.
quest.
Yeah, quest.
A question.
He has to go all the way to Chicago for it.
It is a quest. Yeah, it's a 2-year program, and this is his last one. So excited for him to kind of finish up this journey and reflect back on what these 2 years have been for him.
Right.
So you're hanging out with us today.
Big facts.
Yes, exactly.
That's what that means.
I was out yesterday unexpectedly for the team. My son, Ellis, he is 6 months old. He had an allergic reaction to peanuts.
Oh.
So we were in the ER on Wednesday night. So that's why I did not come yesterday.
Did you know he was allergic to peanuts?
No, we did not.
This is okay.
It was his first time. So my older son is allergic to dairy and eggs.
Okay.
And so we had some suspicions that our second might have allergies, but we weren't sure yet. So this is the first time.
That's scary.
Yes. So we were there until about 11 p.m. He was great. He was a trooper. Everyone loved him, of course.
He's a
Of
sweet
course.
boy.
He was just guys. He got an EpiPen shot. Okay, at the hospital. He did not cry or whimper
Oh, my
or
goodness.
flinch. He just like looked at him.
Wow.
He's a gangster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that's where I was. So thank you, team, for holding down the fort and your prayers for him while we were gone. He's doing good now.
Yeah, we're glad you're all okay.
Yeah. Now it's just our job to keep him safe. So we're used to the EpiPen allergy life. So
Tell me about it. My son's.
you have some too?
Yeah, my son's allergic to wheat.
Oh, God.
So
It's in everything.
it's in literally everything. So yeah, we've had many hospital visits as you have to figure out, like, oh, that got wheat too?
Right.
Oh, that's wheat.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was just regular sauce. There's wheat in it. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. But they try to like
everything.
put different words that mean
Right.
wheat. And you're like, okay.
Like, these are people's lives
Right.
here. Like,
Yes.
we need to be able to read nutrition labels.
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
I got some side eyes because when you have an anaphylactic reaction, you get admitted immediately. You don't wait in the
Yeah.
waiting room.
Of course.
And all the people in the waiting room are like side eyeing me and like, no, you people, back away from me.
Yeah.
Don't look at me.
Oh yeah, it's like the right straight
Yes,
to
you go
it.
straight
Yeah.
in.
You know what I'm saying?
A lot of people don't understand that an ER is not a first come, first serve thing.
Right.
It's like if you have to wait, count yourself blessed because you are not
Yes.
dying.
You're
That's
not-
exactly right.
You're
Yes.
not that bad off.
Yes,
right?
I heard the like intake nurse say to someone who was complaining about not being let in, she goes, I'm not trying to say that their emergency is more important. It's just more emergent.
Hey, I agree.
I was
That
like,
poor nurse.
know.
She's got some stories. I want to have coffee
Oh,
with her.
I'm sure there's so many people complaining about how they can't get in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Friday, Follow Up Friday. What do you want to talk about? 440-546-2255.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. We have Pastor Tanks here. He'll talk about anything.
I will.
Mostly.
Facts.
Mostly. Almost.
Mostly, almost.
For the most part.
Some stuff we talked about this week was stop the phone-based childhood. So that's, I don't know if they really gave an age in the article, but it was by, I think his name's Jonathan Haidt, and he was talking about, you know, all of the kids today have phones. They're always on phones. If they're in elementary school, middle school, high school, it doesn't matter. They all have phones. Brian talked about how some of his kids were like the last in their grade to get phones.
Yeah.
And so Jonathan Haidt's just talking about how do we go back to what it used to be and we, you know, go outside and play. Like back in Ron's days.
Yeah.
Get out of here and don't come back till the lights come on.
I mean, even to some aspect, our childhood, Lauren,
yeah.
which was not that long ago.
Yeah,
It's just shocking how quickly things have changed.
Yep. Oh, I was outside all the time.
Oh, yeah, same here.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, inside was nobody wanted to be inside. Like
No.
growing up, it was like, can I go outside? Can I go outside? Like punishment was you can't go outside. That's how much people wanted to be outside. Now it's like you're on punishment. You can't go outside. It's like,
Okay.
and this is a punishment. Why?
My Xbox is in here.
Yeah, I didn't want to go outside.
Yes.
Thank you for granting me all of my wishes. I just be bad and you never kick me out the house. Amen. It is different.
Yeah. So we talked about that. How do we let our kids be kids, but also, you know, in the age of phones, let them have phones or not.
Because all their friends are on
Exactly.
social media as well.
That's where their friends are, is on social media or, you know, on video games or whatever.
Yeah, it's a two-edged sword.
Yeah. We talked about the Christian case against Ring by Spring. Have you heard about this, Pastor Tanks?
It has something to do with getting married and having sex.
That's
Yes,
the
that's
gist of
exactly
it.
right.
And I only know that because I watch y'all talk about it.
Yeah, this was written by a guy who was part of YWAM, Youth with a Mission, as well as he went to Moody Bible Institute,
Okay.
also known as Moody Bridal Institute.
Okay. People get married there.
Yes.
Okay.
People, you want to get married and do it fast. So we talked about that and why are they doing that? Should we maybe not be, you know, suggesting this for our young Christian people? We talked about signs that you're dealing with a gentle bully.
Okay.
And then yesterday, Ron and Daria, there's two that you guys could kind of fill us in on. The execution of Brian Dorsey in Missouri. He had a lot of requests from the guards. I think it was like 70 guards to not execute him.
Including at least one former warden.
That's right. But they still did. So talking about if someone has all this support that's on death row, do we still kill them or do we listen to those who have been, you know, interacting with him like guards and wardens and maybe give him a pass? What was kind of the summary on that?
I don't know that we came to a conclusion, but the crux of it was, okay, this guy is clearly rehabilitated. He was a model prisoner and was deeply apologetic. So in that case, what we settled on is there's nothing in the law to prevent someone who has been rehabilitated from going to death row. And the question we kind of left it on is, should there be?
Okay.
Got you. Okay. Makes sense.
And then did you also talk about the only child boom?
We did.
What was that like, that conversation?
So basically, a lot of families who are now aging only have one child. And so you just have the single person to care for their parents, which that's a lot financially, emotionally, physically, obviously. And so what is the church's role as we see more families just having one kid, or in some cases, a lot of married couples are choosing not to have kids at all as they age? What is the church going to do to help people out?
Okay.
Interesting.
Hold on. Wait. Say the last line one more time.
What is the church doing to help elderly people as they age and they're potentially just a single child who's helping to care for them?
Interesting.
And I think there's a portion of the responsibility on us as the elderly parents that we should do what we can to have our house in order. You know, like the Swedish death cleaning we talked about before. Clear out some of the clutter that your kids are going to have to go through when you pass on. Make sure that your paperwork's in order, that you've got a will. If necessary, you've got a trust, that they know where to find those documents, or better yet, that they have copies. All the things that go along legally with
power of attorney. Just make it easier on, like, your kids, I'm sure, want to help take care of you best they can, but make it easier on them for them to do that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Great.
Makes sense to me. Your kids should be.
Those are the topics of the week. Does any of those pique your interest? Let us know. Or, something random. What do you want to ask Pastor Tanks? 440-546-2255. This is Mornings with Brian, and it's Follow Up Friday.
Moody Radio's thankful for support from listeners and businesses like Deerfield Ag Services. They help in adaptation of new technologies and techniques of farm and business management. More information about Deerfield Ag and how they can help is at deerfieldagservices.com.
You can secure your master's degree in clinical mental health counseling from Moody Theological Seminary. Study at the Chicago or Plymouth, Michigan campuses. Be equipped as a servant leader who can transform your community. The graduating class of 2017 had a 100% job placement and a 100% pass rate on the National Counselor exam. You'll be equipped to meet the needs of others while you reflect the character of Christ. Get started today at moody.edu/counseling. That's moody.edu/counseling.
When CareNet conducted a national survey of hundreds of women who'd had an abortion, a stunning statistic emerged. 4 out of 10 women who chose an abortion were regularly attending a church at the time. Abortion isn't just an out-there issue in the community, it's inside the church. Making Life Disciples is an exclusive CareNet curriculum designed to equip churches to provide compassion, hope, help, and discipleship to women and men considering abortion. Making Life Disciples is a simple, easy-to-access training that allows your church to begin a gospel-centered approach to caring for the abortion vulnerable. Transform your church's response to abortion, form a network of security for people at risk, and become a central point of compassion in your community. Learn more about the Making Life Disciples curriculum at care-net.org. Search Making Life Disciples at care-net.org.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Radio Cleveland. This is Mornings with Brian. Thanks for joining us. It's Follow Up Friday, so the show is yours. What do you want to talk about? 440-546-2255. We have a bunch of stuff we talked about this week, of course. But also, we're willing to take your questions. Bible questions? I don't know. Pastor Danks, what do you think? You want to take Bible questions?
I'm not that smart.
Oh, yes, you are.
But I'm here. You know, you ask away. You know.
You're getting your PhD. Look at you.
See, you don't tell people that because then they have, now there's an expectation.
Expectation of what?
Something I'm not. No, yeah, man. You know, I am getting my PhD.
That's right.
It's in childcare.
No, it isn't. early childhood development.
Right, early childhood development.
No, but what is it actually?
My PhD in?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
You don't know?
I do know.
You forgot?
No, I know. But when I say it, then they're going to want to ask me Bible questions.
That's exactly right. You're a pastor.
It's in biblical. My PhD is in biblical exposition.
Cool.
Ooh.
Wow.
What's your dissertation going to be on? What are you gonna write on?
You know, that's why I'm on a break right now because I don't know. Yeah, so I don't have all my classwork is done. So I got to do my composition exams in the fall, and then I got to submit my perspectives. But I don't really know it's hard because I don't know what I want to spend a significant portion of my life writing about because it changes all the time. Like there's always something that's active because I'm also a pastor. There's also like always things that are like prevalent that I'm thinking about, and I'm like, man, somebody needs to like do some work on this. But it's like I gotta pick one, and so I'm having trouble picking any because I don't want to pick one and then start down that path because that's what happened when I was doing my master's in apologetics. Like I loved apologetics, but when I started the program, it's not just free fall apologetics. It's a program. So you got classes on specific things. Well, while all my time was consumed on that type of writing, there were real apologetic issues popping up in our community that were new to me that I didn't have time to do the research and dig into. And I was mad. I literally was like, man, I don't know why I'm doing this degree. They're not even talking about the stuff that's happening in my community. Right. And I need to deal with that. And so it's also like, man, if I submitted perspectives, you know, which is a lot of work already, you know, that's 3 chapters, you know, it's kind of like, and then something pops up and it's like, but I got to spend, you know what I'm saying? So, but I got to pick a subject eventually. At least that's what they keep telling me that they told me I can't get the degree without writing on something.
Now, with biblical exposition, for those who may not know, what is that?
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, all it is the Bible. Expository. It's like break it down the word of God. So all of that's literally like it's like hermeneutics. So like those who know, like think in the most simplest form, it's a PhD in how to study the Bible, essentially.
Okay.
So my dissertation has to be specific to a issue, some type of exegetical issue, some type of theological issue. But it can even be like apologetic issues, social issues, but it has to be rooted in an actual biblical text that is being applied to that, broken down, argued, et cetera, et cetera.
So in the paper, you're just showing how you're expositing scripture, breaking down scripture
to address whatever the issue is. The subject matter that I'm adding to the conversation on.
And they're going to comment on how you broke down the scriptures. Is that what it would be?
They will comment on if I accurately added to the conversation, defending my position from the Bible using all of great exegetical and hermeneutical skills. So it's pretty much what I do every Sunday.
Yeah.
Just being judged by a few smart people.
Just not the people in your congregation.
Few very smart people.
Yeah. Ooh, sounds fun.
Sounds very fun. So, you know, eventually I'll figure out a topic and because I want to be done in 2020. Like my goal was to be done. So you got to get writing in the winter of 2025 so I can, because there's no more school journey. I've been in school. So I've been in school consistently since 2012. So I'm like, I'm done. I'm ready to be done with school because I don't go full. I'm part-time always. So it's like they made me go to school because they said to be, hey, that's something you can talk about today. But they made me go to school because I said I felt called to preaching. So they told me I had to go get a degree. It's like, I didn't know that. I thought I was done with high school when I barely graduated.
Wow.
Thought I got out of all of this stuff. So I literally been in school since 2012. So I'm ready. And my wife is ready. I'm sure my church is ready.
They're ready for the Reverend Dr. Tanks to take to the podium.
We're going to have to call you Dr. Tanks.
I hope not.
Yes, we will.
It has a nice ring to it.
We absolutely will be calling you Dr. Tanks.
I'm sure somebody will. I might answer. Just know I won't expect it.
You won't expect it. That's
I
good.
won't expect it. Only certain people I'll expect it.
Like who, Brian?
Brian, for sure. If you're listening, Brian, get ready. It's Dr. Tanks to you.
That's exactly right. Again, it's Follow Up Friday here on Mornings with Brian. Text, call 440-546-2255. We're talking a little bit about the subjects we went through this week. We talked about stop the phone-based childhood. We talked about maybe you're dealing with a gentle bully or the execution of Brian Dorsey in Missouri. The only child boom is beginning. We got a couple of texts about the only child boom. So Ron or Daria, could you give us a recap of what you talked about yesterday again?
So there's a growing trend in aging parents with only a single child to help take care of them, which creates a lot of financial and emotional and other burdens on the child because they don't have anyone to help them.
Ron, anything else?
We also brought up how sometimes it's a de facto only child because you may have multiple brothers and sisters, but they've all moved away from mom and dad and for whatever reason can't seem to come back and help out. So the one who happens to live in the same town as mom or dad is saddled with all the work, while the others are like, well, my kids have soccer and I've got work and my wife has work and blah, blah, blah. And they all, all the excuses, they just can't be bothered.
Yeah. Well, we're about to hit up a break, but I want to talk about the only child boom. What's your experience with it? Are you going into it? Have you already dealt with it? Let us know. Text 440-546-2255.
Has someone close to you turned their back on you? I'm Nate Hunter, and this is Pause for Prayer. I remember my father's heartbreaking story. His mom was a single mother with 3 boys. She gave up my dad to the Hunters, but would not let them adopt him so she could still receive government checks. In her later years, she became very ill. Dad visited her in the hospital and introduced himself, since he hadn't seen her for many years. Her cold response was, "I only had 2 boys, and one of them died." Let's pause for prayer. Dear Father in heaven, I am so thankful you allow me to call you Father. The assumed attributes of a parent-child relationship are love, trust, and care. You promised these things when you called me to be your child. I am so thankful that the psalmist said, "For my father and my mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me in." I know, Lord, that there are people praying with me who have faced these emotions of abandonment or rejection. These are the ones I am lifting up in prayer right now. I know, Jesus, that you faced the ultimate in rejection when your chosen people cried out, "Crucify him. We would rather have Barabbas." You also felt this loneliness when you bore my sins hanging on the cross alone. Thank you for bearing this unbearable burden. You told us in Hebrews 2:17, therefore he had to be like his brothers in every respect, so that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in the service of God, to make propitiation for the sins of the people. Thank you, Jesus, for being that high priest. And thank you, Father, for accepting this sacrifice. Please help anyone who feels alone or rejected. Allow them to extend forgiveness and feel the freedoms only you can give. We need you now more than ever. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
This week on the Car Seat Questions podcast, we'll go in depth about the meaning and importance of grace with our guest, Scott Lessing. You do not want to miss this one.
Find the Car Seat Questions podcast on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform.
If God's plan led you into law, maybe it was for such a time as this. Consider applying to join Moody's Chicago-based legal team. Moody is hiring an assistant general counsel. You'll help our legal team guide this ministry on important legal matters. If you have a law degree, at least 3 years of experience in the legal field, and a desire to impact Christ's kingdom, learn more about this opportunity at moodyjobs.org and enter keyword 5192. That's moodyjobs.org.
Your day is starting off strong with Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
.636 on Mornings with Brian. You are joined by Ron and Daria and Pastor Leonard Tanks.
What's good,
And
yo?
Lauren.
And I'm here too.
Oh, and Lauren.
We're all here. Before the break, we just started talking about the only child boom. This article is from the Wall Street Journal. It says an only child boom is beginning. It's getting complicated when mom and dad age. So it follows the story of a woman named Lori. She's an only child, and she talks about how she has to care for her parents as they're aging. She talks about she makes big pans of meals for them all the time. She has to take them to their doctor's appointments. She has to collect their mail and their bills and help them work through that. Often, it says, a caregiver will absorb much of the out-of-pocket expenses. For family caregivers, that averages $7,200 a year, according to AARP. So just is talking about when you don't have siblings, when your parents just had one kid and they're aging, it's kind of all left to you, the one and only child, to take care of them. And what if you've moved away from them, when they were healthy and well, and then they're starting to age and you have to move back or move them closer to you? It says, their care became more consuming as their health deteriorated. Lori's mom, who had a heart attack a decade ago, has to walk with a cane now. Her father was diagnosed with cognitive impairment and has frequent falls. Years ago, Lori bought her parents a book about the importance of making wills and advance directives. Recently, she found it in a drawer, still in its protective wrapper. Mm-hmm. Her parents don't have a will, and they still retain power of attorney. So, basically, she just continues to talk about it's so time consuming for her. She has to, put aside all of her needs and things to take care of her parents because she's an only child. And we're seeing even more so now probably than this woman who's 49 at the writing of this article. Even more so now, probably Gen X is having like one kid. Millennials are having one kid. And so how do we take care of those who are aging in our churches?
Yeah.
What do you think, Pastor Tanks?
Go
ahead,
just
Ron.
to interject, I would say like we've kind of framed it like the single child boom is coming, but it is upon us. Because she's got to be in her 40s at least.
Yeah, she's 49 in this article.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 49 years ago that they had a single child.
Yep.
And it's just continuing today.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I got lots of thoughts, I think. Well, first I would commend the lady that wrote the article. I think the Bible instructs us on how we should, as children, respond to. I'm assuming is it her mom and her dad she's taking care of? Gotcha. So it's a little bit different than kind of what Paul is talking about when he talks about like widows or but the children. The idea though is that the children, if they have their parent, right, especially one that doesn't have a husband, right, that there's an expectation for the parent, for the church not to be the primary source of taking care of, but it's supposed to be the child in 1 Timothy chapter 5, unless they're truly widows, then the church is supposed to come alongside of them, meaning like they have no children to take care of them, and things like that. So I think first and foremost that she's doing a great job. I think, I've never had to think that. I mean, I'm listening. I'm like, I never had to think that deeply around like, oh yeah, if you're an only child, if your life is not set up in such a way that you can even afford the care, can move them in comfortably, that gotta be a lot of stress. Like, I'm not an only child. My mom has 5 kids, my dad has 2, and he old, but I don't think I'm gonna have to take care of him ever, no time soon. But I think about like in my household, my wife and I, we have always been prepared to be like, hey, if anything ever happens to my father, if anything ever happens to her parents, like, hey, we would be prepared to move my in-laws or her in-laws into our house and be care providers. But I never thought about like depending on how they come to us, right? Because it's one thing for them to just be like, oh, I'm just older in years, like my wife's grandmother who just passed, like, but for like the last 20, before she passed, those last like 15, 20 years, she literally just traveled. She stayed each quarter with a different one of her kids because she had 3 kids. So she was just each quarter, she would go to the different city and she would stay there that quarter. Then she would go to the next. But she was able-bodied.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Until towards more the end of her life. But so, I mean, in that case, it's not that difficult. But what if they're coming with like extreme health conditions where, you got to do doctor visits. You got to give them insulin, or you got to like, I can imagine that can be tough. So, I mean, in that case, I would think that the church should at least be supporting the caretaker, assuming this person even has a local church that they attend, but that they would be kind of tending to and helping the caretaker out to provide wisdom, provide resources, relief. So that's one thing. But yeah, I think the problem, man, if you're talking about single kid era, like, No, it's about to be just single mother era running around here. I mean, not single mother, no kid era. I mean, because people just not even trying to have kids no more.
Right.
And so I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the problem's going to become that people don't have any children to take care of them.
Right.
Because people in my generation are just not having children.
Or they're dying young.
Yeah.
Which is the worst, even worse.
Yeah.
And I know there's some people that as they're aging, they don't want help. They don't want their kids to help them. But then they get themselves in like dangerous, situations like falls or.
Right.
My grandfather, you guys, he started to get sick and he would be driving around to his doctor's appointments. He would go golfing every day. He had a little part-time job in his 80s.
Good for him.
He had his little part-time job in his 80s. He was working at a golf course. And he would drive himself there in his 80s. But then he one time called my dad and was like, oh, yeah, I was driving to the course today, and I couldn't feel my leg, but I just figured God would help me.
Grandpa, go to the hospital.
Wow.
He's just driving around.
Unfortunately, I think that kind of thing is really common as you age. I've seen it happen with relatives and, family, friends, and that kind of thing. I wish I knew why, but I think, parents, while you are still of completely sound mind, like just be prepared for that kind of thing. Like prepare your kids like, hey, as I get older, I'm going to really want to not relinquish my independence. So here are some steps, and just like be prepared for the fact that you will need help. I'm sure that's really scary to realize that you're coming to the end of your life and you're not as independent, but your kids are doing this because they care for you. And if you care for them, you'll help set them up for success in caring for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. And I also think proactively, this is where even for the older, it's just anybody, like the local church is so critical. Because I've watched, I don't know what it would look like in this, like the generations that keep coming, but I just know I watched, man, the older women and men in the church be present for the older women. Like, I've seen them like surround, even when I watched my wife's grandmother, like I just watched how many older women, especially ones that were still healthy and able, how they would be check-ins. They would come over, sit, have their coffee and talk and like really be a support as well. But that's because they had a local body, right? And I also think like this becomes part of the reason why it is important, not just for the caretaker belong to a local body, and now it's like, how does the church support them? But also for just people, period, to have to belong to the local bodies, because as you get older, these individuals are going to be able to be there to care for you as well, to be a support for you, to be a friend to you, recognizing that you might need that. And I think the more, I would love to see, I don't know if this is real or not, but I would love to see, I would love to see how internet church affects the caregiving and support in the future generations, because you got individuals, and I'm not necessarily knocking them. I have my issues with it and not my issues with it. But if your church is in California and you're in Florida, but you call yourself a member of this online church in California, they can't be there for you when you're sick. They can't be there for you and when you age and need the assistance. So the only people that can be there for you is the local assembly of people that you're connected to. So I'd be interested to see if that plays a role in it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, and even if you go to church on Sundays but you're not connected.
Yeah, that's another one.
You have to be like in your community for people to know to care for you or know that you need care.
Yeah.
Yeah, my church has like a designated like outreach pastor that just visits and helps care for people who are sick or in the hospital. And so he says sometimes he'll get people angry that they weren't visited when they needed something. And he's like, well, first of all, hi, nice to meet you. I have no clue who you are. Second of all, did you tell anybody you needed help?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's also a big part of it. And Ron, you've taken care of elderly parents. And so I think it's hard for them to say that they need help.
Yes.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah. There's a sense of pride that you don't want to give up your independence. You don't want to admit that, even now I'm starting to see I can't do everything that I used to do. In my mind, I'm still in my 20s, but a 62-year-old body, I'm learning not to jump down from things, you know, just take a careful step. Those things happen, and the body becomes more frail. So you hear about that, you know, I've fallen and I can't get up, but it's a serious problem for older adults.
Yeah.
And if you don't have anybody checking in on you, and a lot of the older adults don't really like cell phones at all.
Right.
So even if they have one, they stash it, you know, where the landline used to be and just leave
Put
it
it in a
sit there.
drawer. Yeah.
That's my dad.
Until it dies, never charge it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
exactly.
they may fall and not be able to get to it. And so you need people to check in on you and stuff, or you need to admit you need help and, you know, move in with one of your children if they can do that, or some kind of a care facility.
Yeah. Well, we're up against a break, but maybe after this, we will talk about how can we, as those who are going to be caring for our older parents or aunts and uncles, maybe, how do we have those conversations that are really hard with them? So call or text 440-546-2255.
Prayer works. Are you a new believer in Jesus? Make regular study of the Bible a main component of your growing relationship. Each page is God's timeless communication with us. Here's a prayer you can pray often to help firmly establish your love and respect for God's Word. The late Bible teacher, pastor, and author, Dr. Lehman Strauss.
Thank you, Father, for the blessings of Bible study, for these nuggets of truth that have always been there, to discover them and to apply them. Help us, Lord, to see that only Bible truth that is obeyed becomes alive and real to us. Help us to respond to thy word, we pray in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Prayer and study of God's Word provide the spiritual nutrition you need each day. Learn more at moodyradio.org/prayer.
Graphic designers, if God put that creativity in you, it's so rewarding to use it for Him. Moody Bible Institute is hiring a design manager to direct, design, and execute creative strategies and marketing materials across digital and print channels. If you have at least 3 years' experience in graphic design management, visit moodyjobs.org and enter keyword design. That's moodyjobs.org, keyword design.
Are you looking for candid conversation from a biblical perspective? You found it. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
6:50 on Mornings with Brian. Thanks for joining us. Brian's not here today. He's on his way to Chicago? In Chicago? Not sure. I'm not keeping tabs. He is going to Chicago this weekend for his spiritual formation course, finishing that up. Excited for him to kind of complete that and be able to reflect on the last 2 years of his journey. But Ron's here, Daria's here, and Pastor Leonard Tanks.
Yo, what's goody, yo? And you're here.
And I'm here.
Lauren's back.
I was not here yesterday. I'm here today. We've been talking about the only child boom. It is upon us, as Ron said. There are kids that have no siblings that are taking care of their parents by themselves as they're aging. I kind of want to talk about how do we have those conversations in advance with our family members who are aging? How do we gently and kindly say, hey, you're not going to be able to do this forever. Let's start making plans without offending. Or if they do get offended, unfortunately, we still have to have those conversations. You know, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts?
I find it interesting, the opposite. I try to raise this sometimes, and my daughter is like, nope, I don't want to hear about it.
Oh.
You're going to live forever. You're going to always be healthy. So maybe in her case, there's a bit of denial.
Yeah.
I think my boys would be more like, yeah, I get it. You know, it's just the circle of life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to, for me to think about my parents not being here anymore is hard. And my parents are about your age, Ron. And so I don't want to talk to them about that. But we have to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, to make sure everyone's taken care of. And I don't remember who said it, but to make sure expectations are set.
Yeah, we're starting to enter this phase of life with my mom's parents. My dad's parents are both gone, and we were not prepared for how quickly his mom would decline.
Yeah.
So we're kind of that my mom's parents are still doing pretty well, but we're trying to get ahead of that before there's like a crisis like what we had with my dad's mom. So I think just being prepared for this while your relatives are still healthy and of sound mind, and you maybe initiating the conversation with your kids early so that they're used to the idea.
Pastor Shanks, what do you think? Should the kids start it? Should the parents start it?
I mean, so I guess it depends. So like my dad, when it comes to my dad is 64, 65. He one of them, 4 or 5. And, you know, so we've obviously done all of like power attorney paperwork. We've done the will stuff with my dad. But that was more his initiation. Like that was him calling me and my sister like, come over here, sign these papers. And, you know, it's like, what papers? And my will and stuff. I'm like, is you dying? Is something wrong with you? Like, why are we doing this, right? Because I'm not here. I'm like, what's wrong? You good? So I think he initiated on that half. I think if he really started to decline, it'll be difficult. Because my dad is like super self-sufficient. Like at 64 or 5, my dad still. So my dad has a landscaping company. He still goes out and cuts 40 to 50 yards a week. My dad's a party promoter, so he still throws parties like every month. Like, you know, he still go. He's going to Alabama like for a party like on the bus. Like so I'm like trying to tell, and I be talking. I'm like, man, you get old, man. You slow down. You know, I was in bed all week. I had my little bronchitis thinking my chest was messing up, boy. Yeah, so I'm like, you probably need to sit down, boy. I'm going to Alabama. So it's like I don't know how good of a conversation that would be when it's like, because me and him have had conversations where I'm like, man, you know, you had this house built when I was like, I guess I don't even know how old I was, like 13 or 14. You know, my dad's divorced now. Me and my sister gone. So you got this big old house you live in by yourself. And I'm like, why you ever think about like just like going into an apartment? I'm gonna die in this house, boy, huh? And then give it to you. I don't want it. But so yeah. I think there are cases where it will be harder to have those conversations. But I do think that at the end of the day, at best, you should be having those conversations within your household. So that's why I said, like, my wife and I have had those conversations. Hey, I don't think nothing gonna happen to my dad because he's pretty healthy still, minus the stuff that happened to him in war. But I'm like, he's pretty healthy still. I'm like, but hey, if ever something happened, not even just he gets sick, like let's just say he don't want to work no more, you know, through his business, because he already retired from he was a boat manufacturer, so he retired there. But let's just say he didn't say, I don't want to cook rice no more. Like, hey, we might have to be prepared to be like, oh, well, you got to come live with us. You know what I'm saying? We've had those conversations about her parents, you know, and they're both I still golf with my father-in-law. Like, so they're still very much healthy. Yeah. But we've had those conversations of being like, hey, something could happen and we would have to be prepared to be as the more stable of the children on both sides. And if any of my siblings or her siblings are listening, it's not a knock, but you know, just more stable, be the ones to say, hey, we need to come and be the primary caregiver. So we've had those conversations, realizing that it could be our parents may not want to have those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's hard to have those conversations, but it's better to have them now when everyone's of sound mind. And it may be difficult to get there, thinking about, you know, if I was to think about having those conversations with my parents, that's like feels hard. And maybe you start with your siblings. If you do have siblings, start with them and decide, okay, how are we as, like for me and my sisters, there's 3 of us, how are the 3 of us going to handle this together? You know, and kind of start from there and then have a conversation with your parents. My grandfather is in his 90s. And I'm pretty sure he's been retired my entire life. So he's had a lot of time to think and prepare, and he's really open about talking with his daughters about what are the plans.
Good for him.
And I don't know how recently that's begun, but he's, you know, had time to think about it and discuss the plans. And so maybe if you're feeling like you're ready to have those conversations with your kids, you start them. But if you're the child, and especially if you're an only child, you should probably start those conversations now.
Yeah.
Just to be prepared, where everyone's happy and you can make agreements before anyone's mad or grumpy.
Right.
Yeah.
Or before it's like, we have to make a decision right this second.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the mad and grumpy, I think, even if you have things set beforehand, because I've seen this multiple times, that's just a part of aging.
Yes.
And so I think if you're the child and you're dealing with your parents thinking that you hate them because you're trying to, quote, steal their independence, just know that they still love you. And this would be a completely different conversation if they were 5-10 years younger.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And then if you can agree upon it when they're, in their 60s and everyone's, well, it'll go better for you when they do start needing help. So,
and I was going to say too, also this is another thing where I don't think it's a big thing necessarily for like my dad's generation and stuff, but I think for us talking right now, like me, sub 40 guy, that we have to realize one day we will be the older parent, right?
Oh,
so I have 5 children total, but 4 living children, and at the end of the day, I have to make sure I'm preparing things in my life. Like, do I have my retirement stuff? Do I have? Am I paying this? So because even if my child I need to move in with a kid, I don't have to move in with enough resources to help provide to them, to help provide for me as well.
Because you don't want to be more of a burden to them.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, I have to come here because I need the assistance, but I also bring resources so that I can help pay bills, right? I can help. And I think that, and that may not be a lot because I'm obviously going to be fixed income at that point, but it's still, I can contribute so that it's not all a burden. And so I also think even for people that's my age or things like that, also always being mindful, because no one thinks about the future like that. Like, I don't even like to think about the future. And I'm just being honest, like as a pastor, like when I stopped working in the world, I don't even want to say the world, in the marketplace, like when I planted the church, I didn't have a retirement plan because the church was too new. They couldn't afford to pay me and pay into retire. Like that just became a conversation at our last board meeting. Like, hey, y'all should probably be paying into a retirement because at some point I'm not gonna be 80 preaching in the pulpit, right? Because I need to, because I gotta keep preaching to get paid, right? And now but we also came a point in time when, because we knew our church, because we were in a church planting stage, my wife and I then personally started our own retirement investments account. And so, because it's always had to be that thought, like at some point, I'm going to not need to be having to work and still be able to have some income that's coming in to provide for ourselves.
Right.
And I just think our generation specifically, and the generation underneath me, doesn't think about the future enough, right? Which is one of the reasons why you have, especially in the Black community, death rates of our young kids, and everybody's got to do GoFundMes to pay for funerals because nobody thought or is thinking about, hey, people will die. Yeah. People will get sick. And as parents, I think that's hard. On the reverse side, one of the hardest things when we did our life insurance plans was when we had to actually take out life insurance policies on our children, because it's like, oh, shoot, we may actually be alive to bury our children. That's a real possibility. And why that nobody wants to think about that, hey, that's going to cost money. And that's just proactive. And so I just think, period, in all of these things, our people, my generation and underneath, be proactively thinking about these things, because one day you will be the parent that may need assistance. And you want to make sure, especially if you want to make sure, hey, I'm doing everything, especially if you only got one kid, right? I want to do everything to make sure that when you help me, because the assumption is you will be there to help me, that I can contribute something to the aid so that it's not a complete burden on you.
Yep, that's right.
That's my wisdom for the day.
That's Pastor Leonard Tanks.
That's what the PhD got you.
That's Pastor Leonard Tanks on Mornings with Brian. It's Follow-Up Friday. Let us know what you want to talk about. 440-546-2255. We'll be right back after Ron's news.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
U.S. intelligence officials fear that most of the over 130 hostages held in Gaza by Hamas are already dead. It's 7:02. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. That's according to a new report in which the Israeli Defense Forces estimate over 30 have died, with some American officials who are familiar with U.S. and Israeli intelligence believing it is closer to double that number. Israeli officials have yet to comment on the report. Dozens of animals are now in protective custody of the Friendship Animal Protective League following a search of a Lorain County farm. The APL says 88 animals, ranging from dogs to chickens, ducks, and rabbits, were seized on Tuesday from a farm in Grafton following concerns of neglect. And the Ohio Turnpike's new toll collection system is now live. The modernized system of the 241-mile-long turnpike allows for Easy Pass users to more quickly travel on the roadway, and new automated toll payment machines, which accept cash and credit payments, have been installed. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
You don't have to put your life on hold to get your degree from Moody Bible Institute. Moody offers flexible online classes that feature a unique ministry-focused education. Study the Bible and theology anytime, anywhere. You'll benefit from the world-respected faculty and a connection with classmates from around the globe. Invest in your future and get your bachelor's or master's degree from Moody Online. Learn more at moody.edu/online. That's moody.edu/online.
In sports, the Pirates fell to the Phillies 5-1. The Blue Jackets got shut out by the Panthers 4-0, and the Penguins moved into a playoff spot following a 6-5 overtime win against the Red Wings. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. A wind advisory will be in effect from 11 a.m. this morning to 5 a.m. Saturday in Cuyahoga and Lake counties. Showers are likely today with a high temperature near 49 degrees. At last check, light rain was reported across our listening area. It is 47 degrees in Cleveland, 44 Akron and Canton, 46 in Lorain and Elyria.
It's time for your moron moment.
Crispy bread and melted cheese. How can something that tastes so good be this simple? Welcome to National Grilled Cheese Sandwich Day. So, who was the genius behind grilling the combination of cheese and bread to create the grilled cheese sandwich? According to government-issued cookbooks, surprisingly, it is the American Navy who thought of it, or at the very least, were the first to publish the recipe. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:05. With Moody Radio News, I'm
Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine studio, it's Mornings with Brian.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
gosh.
Guess what tomorrow is?
Thought I was going to get away with it.
Brian
It's your
spilled the
birthday?
beans.
Brian?
Brian spilled the beans.
What a loser.
Tomorrow's Lauren's birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. Wow. Oh, wow. Wow, that's worse than Brian.
You told me I could use the buttons.
I did say that you could use that. Tomorrow, 'tis my birthday.
That's what's up.
That's what's up. Your
Praise
birthday was
God.
last week.
Was it? No, I think it was
Yes,
2
it
weeks
was.
ago.
Tuesday.
I think that was 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I think the man knows when his own birthday is.
April
was like the
2nd?
second.
Was April 2nd last week?
I don't know.
It was last week.
It was.
Maybe he doesn't.
Well, my birthday was last week. Oh, yeah, that was. Dang, that was a week ago.
It's been a long week.
It has been.
Yep.
So, Lauren, what are you doing
Yes.
for your birthday?
Nothing. Nothing
Amen.
exciting.
Eddie's not going to make you dinner or
No.
no?
She doesn't know. Maybe he's surprising.
Maybe. Probably not.
It's funny. So, okay, so funny thing. I'm not going to ask you how old you're going to be because
It's okay. I'm going to be 31.
You're a young lady.
I know you thought I was old the first time we met, and it was very rude.
Did I?
Yeah, you're like, I thought you'd be like 35.
Did I only hear your voice?
I mean, you saw me on the screen when I was in Chicago. Mhm.
But 35 is not old.
No, it's
you,
not.
You have that is credit to the maturity in you, right?
Thank you.
But you're a young lady.
Not my wrinkles.
I didn't know you had wrinkles. You're a young lady.
Yes.
You about to be 31.
I'm about to be 31.
My wife's older than you.
Yeah. Well, you're older than me, so.
Yeah, hopefully. So that should go. But so no, funny thing though. Well, happy birthday.
Thank
Happy
you.
early birthday. So funny thing, because birthdays, the older you get, like people don't really realize the older you get, the posture of birthdays does kind of like shift a little bit. And so my guy asked me on my birthday, the day before my birthday, he said, "What you doing, for your birthday?" I said, "Well, my wife asked me what I was doing for my birthday too, so that means I don't think I'm doing anything." It's like I don't know. I don't plan my birthday, so if you don't got nothing planned for me, I ain't doing nothing. Yep.
Exactly. I'm not planning my own birthday.
Yeah, it's like at least you can do is plan. Wife, if you're listening, I love you and you do an amazing job at all things that you do. So I'm not criticizing you. Now, at least.
But we're about to. At least plan my birthday.
At least plan my birthday.
Didn't you want your daughter to do steaks or something with you? Did you do that?
No, so 'cause she's trash too. She literally asked me. She said, "Dad, do you want steak dinner, or do you want me to get you shoes?" And she gave me like a $200 limit or something. And so, obviously, I was like, "Well, I don't even matter. Whatever you want to do." So I didn't get no steak.
Okay.
And I get no shoes.
Well, you did say whatever.
I got no. I did get $100 Harley Davidson gift card from her.
Okay. There we go.
However, if my shoe budget was $200,
Right. Yes.
why wasn't
Where's
the
the
gift
other
card $200?
$100?
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right. She shouldn't have told you the budget.
Right. As my wife texted me, "Hush, I set you up well for your birthday."
Maybe we'll grill Daria. I don't know.
You should do something.
That's a hint. Is it like if you're listening,
He's
Eddie?
not listening.
It's Eddie, right?
Yeah, it's Eddie.
Oh well, somebody
not.
text Eddie.
Make sure Trey makes mommy a birthday card.
That's exactly right. Make me a card. Maybe I'll go shopping by myself.
Now, that's
Ooh,
fun.
yes.
Run
I'm
out
not-
to Yada Yada and get you some coffee.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I'll get some coffee and go shopping by myself where no one is touching me or speaking to me.
That's fun, actually.
That sounds like a great day.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really in this phase right now because I have a 6-month-old and a 3.5-year-old. Why, about dinner time, please, no one touch me. And my son is very affectionate. Bless him. I love him so much. Physical touch is not my love language. It is very much his right now.
Got you.
And he just like wallows on me at dinner. And I'm like, if anyone touches me anymore, I may just fall out of this chair.
No, I get the same way sometimes, and I don't even have like tiny hands always
Yes.
grabbing for me.
Yeah, it's just like, wow. You know when you want to crawl out of your skin because someone is touching you?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is.
Jimmy is very affectionate. I love him dearly, honey. If you're listening, sometimes
Shout out
it's,
Jimmy.
Sometimes it's just too much, and
Of
I just
course.
need just a little bit of space.
Yeah. Yes, it's just too much sometimes.
Oh, that's okay, Jimmy.
So Saturday, I will be
side.
no one touching me. That's what I want for my birthday.
That is a great birthday.
No one to touch me.
No one to touch you. while your little hands to touch you at dinner.
Yes. Trey can sit on the other side of the table with his dad for dinner. That's what I want.
What do you what's your greatest memory?
My greatest birthday memory?
No, your greatest memory from year 30.
From year 30. Oh, well, Pastor Tanks, that was a really big year for me. Well, I had a child.
That's your favorite memory, though? She's like,
and I also moved to Ohio, so it was a pretty big year.
that's your favorite memory, though?
That's a lot.
And I bought a house.
That's a lot.
Is that your favorite memory?
30 was a big year. Maybe just all of it. Bought a house.
Bought a house.
Had a child and moved to another state.
House, car. I mean,
Not a
house,
car.
House, child, move.
Yeah, big year.
Yeah, you did a lot in 30.
Yes. And I really am glad I'm not pregnant anymore. That's all I'm thinking about. Yes, my favorite memory is having my son Ellis. He's the best. So
That's awesome.
And he's also obsessed with Daria's dad. So
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My dad is not even like a baby person. Like he's terrified of like breaking them.
Yes, it is scary.
My dad had never met Lauren or her child,
No.
and they're talking, and Ellis just like reaches for my dad.
Lunges.
And so my dad's like, okay, I'm not a baby person, but I'm not going to say no to this child.
I'm not going to decline a baby.
So he takes Ellis, and Ellis just like cuddles up with him. My mom and I are both like, who is this person? Like we don't know who this person is holding this stranger's child.
Yes.
But it was so cute.
I think there's something about babies. They like unassuming people, quieter people who are not like people who are not vying for their attention. They like them.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, finally, someone's not trying to go goo goo gaga on my
Goo-goo
face.
gaga on my face. That's hilarious.
Yes. Well, it's my birthday weekend. It's April. It's follow-up Friday here on Mornings with Brian. Brian's not here. He's on his way to Chicago, or maybe he's in Chicago. I'm not sure. That's his business.
His business. He's not here.
He's not here, so I don't know.
You guys look really popular.
I'm scared. Okay.
On the TV show.
Figure you were going to say tired.
On
Yes.
what was it called?
New Day Cleveland.
New Day Cleveland.
We did a great job.
We did that this week, yes.
And I was looking, and I was like, Brian, if you listening, before they zoomed in on you, like when they were panned all the way back, I was like, that's a handsome young man.
But then they zoomed in.
Then they zoomed in, I was like, oh, that's Brian.
Oh, it's Brian. Never mind. Oh, bless.
But I tell you what though, the beard thing that you got now, much better look, bro. Much
You
better
like a
look.
cleaner shave?
I mean, I'm not gonna say as a man, I'm not gonna say I like a cleaner shave on a man. That's weird, but I think
He has some scruff.
But I think it's just he looks like he might have hung out in Chicago right now. The other look like he actually
He's
owns
from
a farm.
Garrettsville. Yeah.
Looks more hipster and less lumberjack.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, okay, Brian, I see. Okay, you could. I want to roll with you.
See,
look
wow,
hip.
that may just tip
Yeah.
the scales. You saying that?
Yeah.
A lot of people have been commenting like the beard looks great at that length. Don't grow it any further. And I'm just like, let the man make his own decisions about his own face.
I don't know. Pastor Tanks
He
may have
should
just
listen.
tipped the scales.
He should listen. Well, his wife, he's not here. I don't know. I think he said his wife wanted him to have the beard. No, she didn't like it. Wanted it to.
I don't know.
He
I
said
think she didn't want it at first, but
Okay.
then once he grew it out, she didn't want it to go
Gone.
away.
to go away. Got you.
But she was supportive of him shaving. She said, well, Brian, you got to do it.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And then you did a great job too.
Thank you. I didn't say much.
How did-
Brian carried.
You said
I
really
was
good
supportive
things,
with my presence.
and then they asked another question, and then you was like, "You answer that."
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's
how
the ministry of presence. Pastor Tanks, I was there.
I'm with you. How
with
did it
him.
feel to be?
Honestly, kind of felt like this because you're just like talking to people.
Okay.
Just don't look at the cameras.
Got you.
Which is what I do here. Sorry, I don't look at the cameras because I can't think about it. That people are watching me.
Did you guys feel any like pressure to like? I think you did really good, like, because they're asking just random questions,
Yeah.
and like you guys kept trying to like. I think you guys are really good at keeping like where we at. We address everyday issues with a biblical worldview. And I heard Jesus Christ in there. I was like, come on now. Let's go.
Someone actually told us after that, a guy that works at Fox said that might be the first time Jesus has ever been mentioned on the network.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
The name of Jesus, yeah.
I loved it. I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
Play with us.
Yeah. Even if it was short, there's people watching, so we're really grateful for that time and thankful we got to be able to do that and that they let us, talk about Jesus.
Hope y'all get some more time.
Yeah, it'd be fun. What do you guys want to talk about? 440-546-2255. It's Follow-Up Friday. The show is yours. We're about to go to a break, but maybe afterwards, Pastor Tanks, we can hear more about your story. What do you think?
Sure, I'll give it.
You'll give it?
Yep. Hey, I need. Hold on, I gotta go on the break, so I can't change the format here.
Oh, you can do whatever you want.
But I need some fire emojis in the chats. If you want to hear my testimony and figure out how did Pastor Tanks become pastor, I need some fire emojis. I need 10 shares. Like, tell us if you want it. Fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emojis. All right.
Sound off in the comments or in the text. If you want to hear Pastor Tank's story, call 440-546-2255. Text, get on Facebook, get on YouTube. Sound off in the comments for Pastor Tanks.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
If you're 65 or older, you know this. Seeing your healthcare costs go up and up is frustrating. And maybe you were just notified that your Medicare costs are increasing again, or you're just tired of the massive deductibles. Well, here's some good news. There's a program that can really help with this. It's MediShare 65 Plus. It's an affordable, reliable alternative. You can choose any Medicare provider. You get telehealth access anytime you need it. And MediShare 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B, and it fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. MediShare is a Christian healthcare community that aligns with your faith. People actually pray for you, they encourage you, and it's proven too. It's been going strong for over 30 years now. So call now. You can get one low monthly price for up to 10 years. You're not stuck with increasing costs. You can do something about this today. Call MediShare 65 Plus. Find out how much you can save. Call 833-59-SHARE. That's 833-59-SHARE. 833-59-SHARE.
Our world seems short on compassion, patience, and tenderness. In this noisy world, God's heart beats hard with love and mercy. But how can He share His heart with us when He doesn't have our attention? Spend 100 days discovering the beautiful, merciful heart of God with Overflowing Mercies, a new devotional by best-selling author Craig Allen Cooper. You'll find courage in His promises to you as you soak deeply in God's love in the 100-day devotional Overflowing Mercies. Order it today at moodybooks.org.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays on 3.3.
7:22 on Mornings with Brian. Daria, are there any fire emojis in... Oh, Daria's on the phone. Are there any fire emojis in our texts? Yes, absolutely.
Fire emojis!
We have Annie and Chris and Steve. Steve said, come on, Pastor, let's hear that testimony. Wow.
Everybody else just...
Annie went off with the fire text.
Off.
Someone said, yes, please, Pastor Tank, share your story.
For sure.
Okay. I'm not looking at our streams right now, but I am sure there's fire emojis in our streams.
Fire emojis.
Is that enough for you, Pastor Tanks? Are you willing to share now?
Yeah, I would like one more. There it is.
Got a couple fires in the Facebook comments, too.
Oh, we got two more.
I was about to say, I need to see some more, but there we go. Boom, boom.
Look at
fire
that.
emojis. Like explosions. Explosive. No, yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so I don't know much. You've been a Christian, I think, what'd you say, for 8 years?
14 years.
14? What am I? Oh, maybe when you went to school for 8 years.
I've been in school for 8 years.
Yes,
yeah.
okay, so you've been a
school
Christian
for 12 years.
I've been in me?
Since 2012, that's 12 years.
No. I've been a Christian since 2010.
Okay.
I went to
Since
school
2010.
in 2012 when I felt the call to preach.
Gotcha.
And we know that you had your snakes on the streets and your alligator on the streets.
Yeah.
You don't normally see Christians with snakes and alligators on the streets.
Uh-huh.
Named Baby and Wayne.
Baby and Wayne.
Shout out Baby and Wayne.
Baby and Wayne.
May they rest in peace. So, Pastor Tanks, it's 2010. What's going on? Who are you? What's your life look like? And how did you find Jesus?
Yeah, man. So it's actually funny. I was talking to somebody recently because they had asked I guess they was asking about my testimony too, and kind of like what made me be like completely sold out. That's funny. Have like completely sold out for the Lord, and I was sharing with brother over dinner, and I was like, so the cleanest and shortest version is I got saved in jail. So growing up, I had got 3 felonies before I was 15. And not because I had to. Like, I was actually talking to my buddy 2 days ago. We were driving, and I was talking about, I was like, man, my dad did everything he could do. Cause my dad was a street dude. He was in jail when I was born. He was 5. I was 5 when he got out. And so when he got out, changed his life over, started a business, got me and my sister from my grandmother where we were at, because my mom had some issues and she wasn't present, and moved us out to Shaker, and like worked really, really hard to like give us the life that we wanted. And so when people hear my story, what I want them to understand is I didn't have to do any of the stuff I did. At 9 years old, my dad took me out there and taught me how to cut grass. And every summer, he taught me how to cut grass. He gave me money. But the one thing that my dad didn't do was he didn't teach me what to do with money. So he just gave me money. He paid me to work with him. But I didn't need my money because he bought me everything. And so essentially I ended up getting connected with like my cousins and them. And I used the money that he was giving me because I didn't understand it, and started, buying drugs with it. And started my kind of like, let's sell drugs thing, Ended up getting caught doing that. Went to jail. I mean, I didn't go to jail. I got arrested, then got probation. Then I was a little kid, so did some B&E, some breaking and entering, went to jail, some restitution for that, and then, I did have a pretty bad situation where there was a stab, don't judge me, guys, I'm redeemed, where I got into a stabbing situation at school. That's probably the worst thing that I did. And so I had to go do some time for that. And like my trajectory of my life kind of was just like that way. You know what I'm saying? We got kicked out of Shaker. So we had to move. That's when I said my dad bought the house, he had no choice. Like we just kicked, like the whole city kicked us out. It was like, and so ended up graduating and didn't really have much going on. I actually ended up being homeless because my dad and I had got into like a real big fight when I was 18. Because when I got into that trouble, I became a year behind because I had a year away. And so we had got into a big fight, got kicked out. My best friend who I was living with, JT, he went to CSU. And so I was like going to his dorms and stuff, but essentially I couldn't be there all the time. So I actually found myself being like homeless, like real homeless. Like I slept on like a park bench before. And my brother, one of my best friends, he had got in trouble at the same time, and so he too was homeless. So then we both was like just out here sleeping on like back porches and stuff. And so I was just like, yeah, I won't do this. Not happening. So that caused us to kind of, get our money together, connect with my peoples again, and start kind of our drug dealing situation. And so that's what I did, kind of sold drugs a little bit, a lot of bit. And was kind of back and forth in and out of jail for like small stuff like fighting and things like that. And then like from selling drugs, I kind of progressed from selling drugs. Trigger warning, ladies, trigger warning. Went from kind of selling drugs to then the prostitution of women. And that was kind of like the thing that I was into for the most part, to make money. Fast forward that to it's New Year's Eve of 2010. So it's 2009, but the New Year's Eve. And I'm getting ready to go. We pre-gaming to get ready to go out to the club. For those who's like, what is pre-gaming? It's just when you get lit before you go to the club. So you got to spend all your money at the club. So you go to the club toe up already. And so we're pre-gaming a little bit too hard and like pass out. Like step on some glass, cut my foot, pass out. Then my cousin, I guess he passed out. I don't really know what happened. I just remember waking up and like my sister's like smacking me in my face, and she's just like, boy, what do you think, this is a joke? You think this is funny? And I'm like, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Right.
Apparently somebody called my family and said somebody kidnapped me and stabbed me. So they thought I was like bleeding out in this apartment. And so they came over there doing what my family would do. And so I just remember that night I go home and I'm just tore up, but I go home and I'm not really thinking about much. I wake up the next day. My youngest daughter's mom and I, we kind of get into a little argument. And then that involves like some of her family. And, you know, I ain't thinking much about it, right? And I'm sitting at the house, I'm getting high or whatever, and my stepmom calls me and is like, you out here shooting at people's houses? And I'm like, I promise you, I've been like not in my right mind all day, but I promise you I haven't left my house and shot at anybody today. And she's like, well, that ain't what I'm hearing. And I ain't thinking nothing about it. And I'm just like, whatever. So I go back to sleep. And next thing you know, it's like nighttime. And all of a sudden, like my buddy walks past my door and he just looks at me and he gives me like the little signal. And I'm like, what? And next thing you know, like the police are just right behind him, right? And so they arrest me for kidnapping, assault, and domestic violence. Or that's what I was charged with, rather. And so, and I really didn't really understand what was going on. I kind of did, but I didn't. And so, yeah, man, so I'm in jail. And they got video evidence and everything like that. And, you know, my dad was just like, hey, you might as well just sit because you're going to jail, right? So we just going to get your time started now instead of bailing you out. So we was just kind of sitting in jail for 47 days waiting for trial. Got into some situations with a guy there, which led me to isolation. And so while I was in isolation, this guy named Tom Walsh gave me a Bible. And he's like, man, you're jacked up. You should read this Bible. And
Pastor Tanks, before we get to this part,
okay,
let's take a quick break. This is a good time for a break. This is Mornings with Brian. You just heard from Pastor Tanks. Don't worry, we'll be right back with more from Pastor Tanks.
The old saying goes, what's mine is mine. But Dr. Tony Evans asks, what if it isn't? He'll talk to us about the idea of kingdom stewardship as we spend 2 minutes with Tony.
Kingdom stewardship is our earthly responsibility. Psalm 115, verses 14 to 16 says, the heavens belong to God, but earth belongs to man. In other words, God is up there and we're down here, and he's expecting us to do down here what comes from him up there because it's his kingdom, but he's put it under man's management. And you can manage it badly, or you can manage it well. We are the caretakers of God's property. And so what God is saying is, if you want the full expression of me working in your life, give up ownership, okay? So everybody who wants to be a owner, here is what you've got to do. Go create your own world. But since nobody has that ability or capacity to create their own world, give it up. Give up ownership because God knows what he's doing. He knows what, anybody who can create all of this for this long with all this potential, got to know what he's doing. But the managers want to do their own thing. That's why the Bible says, lean not to your own understanding. You haven't been here long enough, don't know enough. God says, if you will give up ownership and come under my ownership and accept your managerial responsibility, that's where the blessing is.
Learn how to let go of the control you never really had in the first place. Check out Tony's CD series, Kingdom Stewardship, available online at tonyevans.org. Then join us next time for 2 Minutes with Tony.
India Partners works to stop human trafficking, and a partnership in that work is Moody Radio. When you help rescue a girl from the red light districts of Mumbai, India, you are standing up to injustice and living out Psalm 82. It says, defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and oppressed. Now keep that in mind as you hear what happened to Pallavi, who was trafficked and sold at 14 years old.
She took me to a place, I don't know where, and there were a lot of men, and there is no way out.
For 8 years, sometimes as often as 15 times a day, Pallavi was abused.
Morning they used to come, afternoon they used to come, like a commodity.
So let's go right back to Psalm 82. Defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and oppressed. Learn how you can be part of saving, maybe even changing, a young girl's life today. Go to indiapartners.org/Moody. That's indiapartners.org/Moody.
Are you looking for candid conversation from a biblical perspective? You found it. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
7:37 on Mornings with Brian. It is Lauren and Ron and Daria. Brian's out, but we have Pastor Leonard Tanks.
Yay.
Right before the break, Pastor Tanks was telling us about his life before Jesus. If you didn't hear it, go check the live stream on YouTube or Facebook. Text live to 440-546-2255 so you can get caught up on the story. All right, Pastor Tanks, at this time in the story, you are in prison. You're in isolation.
I'm in jail.
You're in jail?
Prison and jail, two different
Yes,
things.
yes.
Yep, I'm in jail.
You're in jail.
Waiting trial.
Okay.
I just want to say, whoever made that instrumental was a fire instrumental. But yeah. So God gives me this Bible, and I grew up Catholic as far as like when we went to church, it was Catholic church. So I was always familiar with like the Ten Commandments, and so honestly, I really thought I was a good dude, because I wasn't breaking. To my knowledge, I didn't break any of the Ten Commandments, right? I'm pretty sure I did as far as like idolatry and stuff like that. But like I wasn't like sleeping with people's wives. I wasn't killing people. I wasn't. So I'm basically meeting them, right? And so I just remember like literally my daughters, because my oldest daughter was 5 at that time, and my youngest daughter was 9 months. And I just remember like they had came and visited me, and I just remember because they were saying like, hey, like we getting 5 years, no deal, just straight 5 years. We sick of this dude. And I just remember looking at my daughters like, man, I cannot leave my girls for 5 years. Mm-hmm. Like I was raised by my dad. So as a man, all I knew was that I'm supposed to take care of my kids. And so I'm like, man, for 5 years, what are my daughters going to do without me? And so that made me kind of like a little down a little bit. I wasn't worried about jail. Like I've been in and out so much. But I was just like, oh man, my daughters. And so that made me, in that process, it made me start to read the Bible because I was in isolation. I had nothing else to do. And so I started reading. And I just, all of us, like never, it's like to flip the Bible open. And I opened it up to what I know now to be 2 Timothy 4, where it talked about Jannes and Jambres going into the house of gullible women and take advantage of them. And I remember when I read that, God used that verse to open up my eyes, because I'm like, wait a minute, part of my financial gain was off of women, whether they chose to do it or not. At the end of the day, there still was a mental manipulation. There was something about them that would allow them to be persuaded into that way. And so I was like, I guess I would be these guys. Like, that's wrong. And because that's not in the Ten Commandments, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so literally that's what God used to open up my eyes to be like, well, if that is sin, what else that the Ten Commandments didn't say is wrong is actually wrong in the Bible? And so literally I had nothing else to do. So I just started reading the Bible. And the more I read the Bible, the more literally the word of God became like a mirror into my soul. And I just kept being like, wait a minute, I am a very bad dude. And so one night I was accidentally reading Revelations, and I ain't gonna lie, it scared the crap out of me, because I'm new. I ain't never read the Bible, so everything's literal to me. So I'm like, dragons, beasts, monsters, seven. I'm like, man, what is this? I do not want to be here for this. And so, man, I literally go into my cell this night, and I just remember praying, and I was like, you know what, God, listen, I don't even know if you're real, but whoever you are, if you're real, if you get me out of jail, I'll serve you the rest of my life. And, woke up the next day still in jail. So it's like, that stuff don't work, right? But I ain't had nothing else to do. So I just kept reading the Bible. Finally, my trial date gets here, and we go to trial. And before trial happens, before they bring the jury in, and before trial happens, my lawyer gets called into the chambers with the prosecutor and the judge. And so they're back there maybe 10, 12 minutes, something like that. And when he comes back out, he walks to me. He says, hey, you want to go home today? And I'm like, how? He was like, well, the video got damaged in police custody. So all they have is audio. And so the only thing that they have is an audio of you saying to people, y'all not going nowhere, which is unlawfully restraint, which is a misdemeanor 3, which is punishable for 30 days in jail. You've been sitting 47 awaiting trial. And so you just get time served, but all the other charges get dropped, and then witnesses didn't want to come forward anyway. And so, yeah, man. So literally that day, I go home, and my boys throw a big party. And we're smoking, regular party, and I'm on the front porch getting high and with weed, and to get clear about that. And so I get like sick to my stomach while I'm smoking, and literally for the first time like in my life, at this is February 26, 2010. Man, I hear God's voice like just so clear, and it literally was like, I thought you told me that if I got you out of jail, you was giving all of this up. And that was like the clearest time I've heard God's voice. And I just remember that loyalty and integrity are like two things that I always stand by. And so I remember just sitting down. That's also the last day I ever smoked marijuana. Literally like that day I put it down and I've never picked it up again. But I just remember sitting down on my step like, man, I did say that. Like, so I got to at least go to church and figure out who this God is that just saved me from jail. And so literally, man, I called my one of my best friends, Toya. We grew up in diapers together. Her dad was a deacon at Providence Baptist Church where Pastor Rodney Mayton's at, because that's the church that I eventually went to. And so I just started going to church with them. And as I started going to church with them, man, these 7 older men just like grabbed hold of me and was just like, hey, like, man, we just like, we want you to study with us. So every Tuesday I would go study with these 7 older men, the word of God. And I would have my notebooks and my journals, and they would just be talking about the word, and I'd just be writing it. And then the assistant pastor came to me and he was like, hey, I want to disciple you. And so then I was with him every day. And then they had this young adult ministry. And so I had these young guys around me, picking me up and holding me accountable, because I still was doing stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing. And they would be like, you can't do, like, I never had license. Like, my license had got taken a long time ago. And I'm like driving around. It's like, you can't drive. And I'm like, man, this sucks. I can't do nothing as a Christian. But the cool thing was, man, but they would literally like fill in the gaps. So they told me I couldn't drive, but then they would always come pick me up every day. Somebody would pick me up every day. And then, the list kept going on. But man, so literally like, I kind of got away for a little bit too in private for different reasons. And during that time, I just had this hunger for the word of God. And so I would just wake up every day and I would spend hours just reading the Bible. And then I would watch like a sermon on YouTube. And then Providence was like heavy in Moody Bible. So then I'm listening to Moody Bible radio all day, the different sermons and taking notes. And man, like I just fell in love with the word of God. Like and my motto was that if all of my life has been living this way, a different way, then if I'm really going to turn my life to live for Christ, then I got to invest the same amount of energy I put into the streets and into the world to understand what God has actually said is appropriate and right. And that meant I got to read the word. And so that's what made me like just have a crazy hunger to read the word. And the more I read the word, the more God transformed my life, the more I fell in love with God. And it went from a deal to like an authentic desire for be like, no, I want Jesus. And I want my life to be surrendered to Jesus. And and so that's kind of, from there, the story just keeps going but that's kind of like how I came to Christ and kind of what started the trajectory of like who I am today and why I stay the course and the path that I stay. Cause I have this transformative thing to always go back to. Like at the end of the day, I can always go back to like, no, I should have been in jail for 5 years because I know I was guilty, right? And you showed yourself to be faithful and true for whatever reason, because I didn't deserve any of it. And so my life really does belong to him.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Yep, that's my story.
What about your story, your past, and even maybe your interactions at Providence with Pastor Rodney Mayton have informed and have you make decisions on how you pastor today?
So honestly, it wouldn't be my time there. So my love for the word of God was developed there. I was grateful to get saved in a church that put a heavy emphasis on the word of God and sound teaching, right? Because that's what birthed that in me. But when I felt the call to teaching, obviously, Ed told me to kind of go to school. But then it kind of shifted, and when I started to feel a call to like shepherd, I was like, man, I think I might be called like the pastor one day. Is actually when my wife and I, we were dating at that time. this is 2013 now. We were dating, and to know not to like anything on the Providence is a great church. Pastor Rod Maiden is an amazing man, and Reverend Cliff Watson, who discipled me all of those years, and was I owe tons of things to him to this day, and we still talk and everything. But I was like, man, I needed to find a shepherd that shepherded shepherds, young shepherds.
Yeah.
And that's how we actually came across my pastor, Dr. Ron Morrison. And so he is the one who has the most influence on how I shepherd. And what he taught me was, because I still was a young knucklehead, a young zealous knucklehead who learned some things about the Bible, but was super zealous with no grace, not gentle. Just, a typical young dude that learned the Bible, judgmental. And man, but I got to watch my pastor, Dr. Ron Morrison. I got to watch him just deal with me firstly with gentleness. But I got to watch how he interacted with so many people that I would have been like, I'm in his ear like, man, you tripping, man. You gotta let them know, like, bro, they out of order, right? But he would just teach me like, man, gentleness, man, learn how to be gentle, learn how to nurture, learn how to be compassionate. And so being with him for those 6 years, serving with him as he continued to develop me into a shepherd, helped me to enter into the space where I didn't know I would need that. But as God has allowed the individuals who have come to Reach City Church to be shepherded by me, the things that they have come from, and things like the unshepherded tanks couldn't pastor them, right? Because I would add to their trauma, I would add to their church hurt, right? But it's because I had that example of my pastor being like, hey, listen, you got to learn how to be gentle. You got to learn how to be gracious. You got to learn how to nurture people into truth, how to nurture people into a faithfulness to the Lord. And that's allowed me to be able to shepherd the people that God has called us to shepherd at Reach. So,
yeah, that's cool. Thanks again for sharing. That's Pastor Leonard Tanks of Reach City Church. I want to hear more after this break about just how you've gone into pastoring and what you take from what you did before Jesus and how you use that in today while you're pastoring. But we're up against a break. So this is Mornings with Brian. Brian's gone. It's Lauren, Ron Daria, Pastor Tanks. Text 440-546-2255 or call any questions you have for Pastor Tanks.
We invite you to visit Moody's campus in the heart of downtown Chicago for Experience Moody, our campus visit day, on Friday, April 26th to Friday, May 3rd. Experience life as a Moody student by attending class, meeting with students and advisors, and exploring our world-class city. We're excited to welcome you to learn more about whether Moody is right for you or your student. Register to attend Experience Moody on April 26th or May 3rd at moody.edu/Experience Moody.
When CareNet conducted a national survey of hundreds of women who'd had an abortion, a stunning statistic emerged. 4 out of 10 women who chose an abortion were regularly attending a church at the time. Abortion isn't just an out-there issue in the community, it's inside the church. Making Life Disciples is an exclusive CareNet curriculum designed to equip churches to provide compassion, hope, help, and discipleship to women and men considering abortion. Making Life Disciples is a simple, easy-to-access training that allows your church to begin a gospel-centered approach to caring for the abortion vulnerable. Transform your church's response to abortion, form a network of security for people at risk, and become a central point of compassion in your community. Learn more about the Making Life Disciples curriculum at care-net.org. Search Making Life Disciples at care-net.org.
Yo, what's goody? What's goody, yo? Yo, what's goody? It's always goody, yo. Goody.
You couldn't tell if he was actually talking or not. I had to look at him.
My theme song.
Oh.
You like this? This is playing when
Should we send this to your church?
Yeah, when I preach. I'm on my preaching break right now, but I'll be back in May. And when I come back in May,
This better be playing.
That's how I'm coming out.
It's your walk-up song
I'm coming
every
out
Sunday.
like this. Yo, what's goody? Yo, yeah.
Ron's
yeah.
gonna send it to your sister.
Right. If y'all listen in Reach City Church, get ready, man. We theme songing it out here.
Okay, but then you're gonna have to make theme songs for anyone else who preaches at church.
Nope,
and you're gonna have to make them yourself.
I'm the pastor.
That's Pastor Leonard Tanks here on Mornings with Brian. Ron and Daria and me, Lauren, are here with you. Brian is out today, but he will be back Monday. We've spent mostly this hour talking with Pastor Tanks about his testimony. If you've missed any of that, text the word LIVE to 440-546-2255. That's live to 440-546-2255. You can listen back. Pastor Tanks, I want to hear about how your life before Jesus impacts your ministry today. How do you kind of take those experiences and deal with the people in your congregation today and what they're going through and your experiences and how you can share with them?
Yeah, so, I mean, really the whole reason why we end up planning the church is based upon knowing where I come from.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in 2017, we started an outreach program in Maple Heights. And, man, I spent all of my time at the park with these young guys. And that's kind of when y'all first met me, Ron, just around that. So you guys knew about, like, the Stafford outreach that we were doing at that time. And, yeah, man, I'm just engaging with cats that are on the streets, cats that are coming out of some crazy backgrounds and things like that. And during that time, man, like, God again spoke to me. And he was just like, man, I always knew that I knew from the moment I went to Hope that I was going there because I believed that God was calling me to shepherd, but I needed to be shepherded by a shepherd that could shepherd me. Along the lines, we began to explore the idea of me just, eventually just being there, just being at Hope, continuing to be on staff with Pastor Ron, and whatever happens after that will happen, right? Mm-hmm. And that was kind of like the thoughts in my head. It's like, hey, this is where I'm at, saying. To be honest, it was like, this is where I'm at, and I'll probably succeed Pastor Ron, right? That was been like the plan, because I was the next guy, Mm-hmm. But it was during that 2017 and then the 2018 season of that outreach program that God spoke to me again, and he was just like, man, I didn't save you for you to forget where you come from, but I saved you for a purpose. And it's almost like, if you remember when Jesus cast all the demons and healed a man at the Gerasene, after that, he tried to get in the boat and go with Jesus, and Jesus told him, no, go home, right? And the whole point of going home was go back to the people who know who you are so that they can see you healed and fully, healed from demon possession and all of that, so that the glory of my power could be on display. I don't need you to come with me. I need you to go home. And so symbolically, the home for me was any individual. We call them those people, and not because we believe they those people, but that was a negative stigma of, like, don't go around those people. Lock your doors when you see those people. Cross the street with those people. Don't go in that neighborhood with those people. And I just remember I looked at my wife and I was like, man, I was one of those people. Like, all of those things everybody said about me, right? But look what God was able to do with me, simply because I encountered the gospel. Simply because not only did I encounter the gospel, I encountered people that was willing to take a risk, because I'm still this young thug coming off the streets into a church. And they'll tell you, man, I would go to church with my hoodie, with the hood on, and I just sit there with the mean mug, because I ain't, and it's like, who is this dude, And but these older men didn't look at me as this dude man, it was just lost hope that just came in here disrespecting the church and the sanctuary. Like, they didn't treat me like that. Instead, they gravitated towards me and they embraced me, and they had hope that God would do something with me. And so it was like, what happens if somebody is not afraid of those people, quotes, but willing to make an investment into their lives? And that is when I just was like, man, I really think we're called to neighborhoods and people that others may not really have a heart and bend towards. And so the way all of that has kind of influenced the way I shepherd is it really, like, it ain't much that we, like, super concerned about, right? There's not much that surprises me. I'm never taken back by anybody that comes into the church, anybody's story. I hear it and I listen for where I need to interact with them and intersect with their testimony and begin to nurture them and shepherd them towards godliness. But because of where I knew I was, it makes it really hard for me to listen to anybody's story and not have compassion and mercy on them, recognize and having hope for them. That, hey, I don't really care how you're coming through the door or even how your sanctification journey has looked. At the end of the day, I believe that with surrender to the Holy Spirit and with intentionality of individuals surrounding you, that, man, God can do a work in you that we don't even know yet what he wants to do. And so it allows me to kind of shepherd that way. It allows me to engage in the community that way. Yeah. So I think it just makes us a lot more compassionate, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking about how you said, it doesn't matter how you come in here, come with whatever you've got. I think a lot of times in churches, we expect people to be already put together when they come to church, whether that's like in emotions and spirit or in like how they physically look and how they interact at church. What's kind of your take on that? Do you think that you can allow anyone to come to your church no matter what they look like, no matter how they're dressed, or would you expect people to be acting a certain way, dressing a certain way?
Yeah, no. So I mean, I don't expect anybody to dress or act a certain way. I mean, I respect. We expect because you still know you was coming into a church, right? So there should be some level of respect in the building, but I also recognize like it might not be depending on where they're coming from. Right. And so visitors, things like that is kind of just like, hey, we don't know how a person is going to walk through these doors. Right. And so our responsibility is however they walk through the doors to engage them and love on them, because only from that relationship, only from them interactions are we going to be able to influence anybody towards godliness. And so obviously, if you walk in naked, we're gonna put clothes on you. Right? Yeah. Right. There's limits, right? You may be able to walk in, however, but if we feel like it's too inappropriate, we'll try to adjust the outfit a little bit if we can. But I mean, it's gotta be really, really bad, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, our hope is that you would come. And not to take the whole, come as you are, don't stay as you are. People say that. But really, they still don't ever press the don't stay as you are piece, right? So, our core values is belonging, right? So we want people to know that they can belong in this community regardless for their authentic self. However God created them authentically, we want them to be themselves. However, with belonging, another core value of ours is transformation, because we want you to be the authentic self that God created, not the authentic self that sin marred. And so we believe that we want you to stay introverted if you're introverted, but we want you to be transformed in being a rude introvert.
Oh, Mandisa.
Amen.
Excuse us, Mandisa. We're talking here.
Yes.
Go ahead, Pastor Tanks. Excuse her.
I was like, that's the introvert music. But you don't have to be a rude introvert. But you don't have to stop being an introvert, right? But so we want to transform the things that need to be transformed in a person's life, and so we press that, which means we really do want you to come as you are, but we really do walk with people in a way to see transformation take place in their life. And so that's what we look for, is their transformation taking place, right? Versus, you just come in the door the same way every single week. Well, at some point, we like, hey, we want to be growing though, right? But from the first impression, and whatever, don't nothing bother me too much. Yeah. Not me, at least.
Someone said, have any of Pastor Tank's friends prior to Christ gotten saved since seeing your transformation?
Yeah. So basically, I grew up I had three closest friends, right? So we've been friends 4, I'm sorry. So one was already a Christian though. So we've been friends for 25, 26 years. So 2 of them are members in the church, have given their life to Christ. One is like doing really, really good. Another one has given his life to Christ, working through his sanctification journey. And this is after like years of like seeing me, you know what I'm saying? It's like 2-year journey now. And then my best friend, my male best friend, him and I literally just began to have conversations. He's like, man, I gotta start coming to church. Now he's church like I was churched. So he has knowledge of God and things like that. But he finally, we started to talk. He's just kind of like, he's like, I really need to do this work, figure this thing out with God. He's like, I was like, yeah, and your best friend just so happens to have a church. You should come. But yeah, so I've seen like those friends. I've seen people that I knew in the world just begin to like ask questions about Christ. I've seen people that I knew in the world that maybe not necessarily connected with me that have been coming to the church. They have a relationship with Christ. I'm not gonna say it was a result of me. However, because I'm familiar to them, I'm a shepherd that they trust, you know. And so yeah, so I would say for me, you know, I've got two of the four, because one was already a Christian. Two of the four that was closest to me definitely are. And then my family is kind of, you know, it's hard because like if you ask any, we all was Christians. If you asked me back then, I would have told you I was a Christian. So it's like all my family still says they're Christians. So it's hard to say like if any of them come to Christ because of me, but definitely there's individuals that have wanted to take their walk to a beyond verbal, because of them knowing my transformation and being just like, yo, this dude, like the family know the most. Like, no, this dude was a nut out there, like for real, like, and that man different, like. So the power of God is clear and evident. So,
yeah, we had someone text in that said, "Thank you for sharing your story. My young adult son smokes marijuana, and I keep praying that God will grab a hold of him and show himself in such a way that he'll turn away from this and turn back to the Lord." What would you say to this parent?
Yeah, man, I would say one, just keep praying for him. But the marijuana thing has just become, well, listen, when they made it legal, it just made it took like all of the umph out of the pastors, because it's illegal, don't do following the law of the land. Then they made it legal, and it's like, all right, we need another angle here. We need another angle here. But I would just say, you know, just keep praying. Continue to try to minister to your son and really get to the root of what the marijuana is solving. Nobody does anything unless there's something that they're trying to solve in it. And so how do you show your son that Christ is sufficient for all of those needs? How do you show your son that Christ, you know, when he says, those who thirst come to me and you'll never thirst again, like ultimately Christ is saying that there is full fulfillment in me. And so how do you just kind of try to help your son continue to recognize like the reason you have to wake up, like that's the thing that made the most sense to me, right? Even though God did allow me to just put marijuana down that day and took that desire completely from me. He didn't take all desires of everything. It was just that one that he really took away from me right away. Other ones he had to progressively take. But it was when I realized that, I had to do it again the next day. That really began to, and as I'm reading the scriptures and I'm reading the clear call of Jesus to the one who drinks of me will never thirst again, who eats of me will never go hungry again, right? Drink of this well, the water that I'll give you, though. Like the more I started reading those, I started being like, so Jesus seems to be promising like this once and for all satisfaction in him, that while I have to keep coming back to him as the source, he is the source though. Right. And so if I got to keep going back to marijuana and I'm never satisfied, then obviously this thing can't be the thing that can really get me through whatever I'm dealing with. I got to keep drinking. Like it's clearly insufficient to do what it has to do because it doesn't do it. I just wake up in the morning and needing it again, where Christ is just saying like, no, like I have you. Right, and you can be fully satisfied in me. So trying to help your son understand that, but just keep praying that the Lord would slowly help him realize, like, the marijuana is just not helping me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Pastor Tanks, for sharing your story with us. If you didn't get to hear all of it, text live to 440-546-2255. That's live to 440-546-2255. You can watch it back. If people want to hear more about your church, what is it? Where can they find it?
Oh, yeah. So our church is Reach City Church. Our website is www.reachchurch, like reach, like you're reaching for something, reachchurchcle.com. Yeah, we're in the St. Clair area, so we meet on 5300 St. Clair at 11:30. But yeah, you just find us on our website. You can find us on Facebook at Reach City Church on Facebook, and then Reach Church CLE on what's the other thing?
The internet.
Instagram.
Oh.
And then Reach City Church Cleveland on YouTube.
Or you can just come to us and we will send you all of the links. We got to get to Ron's news. This is Follow Up Friday on Mornings with Brian.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Support for the southern border wall among Hispanics is inching upward. It's 8:04. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. According to an Ipsos Telemundo poll that surveyed Hispanic adults, 42% of respondents support the construction of a wall or fence along the entire U.S.-Mexico border. That's up from 30% in December of 2021. Nearly 2 in 3 respondents also say they support a path towards citizenship for all undocumented immigrants. 3 people are facing charges after Akron police busted what they say was an illegal gambling establishment. The raid happened Wednesday night at a location on Kenmore Boulevard in the city's Kenmore neighborhood. Police seized 22 gambling machines, along with a handgun, illegal drugs, and thousands in cash. Columbia Gas says it knows the source of an odor which has been reported all across Northeast Ohio. Columbia Gas says there are no leaks, but rather that the smell is coming from an overabundance of mercaptan, which has been added by an upstream supplier. I'll have sports and weather in just a moment.
Making assumptions is rarely a good idea. That's true when it comes to thinking healthcare costs can't be affordable. Christian Healthcare Ministries has been helping believers meet their healthcare needs for over 40 years. It's not insurance, it's a ministry. Visiting chministries.org/Moody eliminates assumptions and shows how this unique model has worked to meet the healthcare needs of hundreds of thousands of Christians. Get more information and have your questions answered at chministries.org/Moody.
In sports, the Pirates fell to the Phillies 5-1. The Blue Jackets got shut out by the Panthers 4-0. And the Penguins moved into a playoff spot following a 6-5 overtime win against the Red Wings. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. A wind advisory will be in effect from 11 a.m. this morning to 5 a.m. Saturday in Cuyahoga and Lake counties. Showers likely today, with a high near 49 degrees. At last check, light rain, 46 in Cleveland, 44 Akron and Canton, 46 in Youngstown as well.
It's time for your moron moment.
Crispy bread and melted cheese. How could something that tastes so good be so simple? Welcome to National Grilled Cheese Sandwich Day. So, who was the genius behind grilling the combination of cheese and bread to create the grilled cheese sandwich? According to government-issue cookbooks, surprisingly, it's the American Navy who thought of it, or at the very least, were the first to publish the recipe. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:07. With Moody Radio News, I'm
Ron Eastwood.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
8:11 on Mornings with Brian. That was Mac Powell. That was a throwback. Mac
Way
Powell.
back.
Wow, that was good. It is Follow Up Friday here on Mornings with Brian. You got Ron and Daria, me, Lauren, and of course, Pastor Leonard Tanks of Reach City Church.
Yo.
He just shared his testimony with us for the last hour. If you missed it, so sorry.
So sorry.
Go watch it on YouTube or Facebook. You can text live to 440-546-2255. But first, Ron, you have an event that you went to yesterday.
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us about it?
I was the MC at the Live Inspired fundraising banquet.
Look at you.
Yeah, it was fun. It's like the 4th year that I've done this.
Oh, cool.
And this was easier because the first 3, I had to actually prepare a speech of sorts, for 3-4 minutes. And it's not my area of expertise. So I'm looking up all kinds of facts and figures, and then it sounds kind of dry.
Yeah.
And so I was very happy to hear this time when they said, you know what? We've got a lot of other things going on. You don't need to do a speech this year.
Oh, that's nice. So you just got to be an MC.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Live Inspired is a ministry. It's just in Medina County at this point. They have volunteer home visitors that go into they're invited in. They don't just march in.
Show up.
Yeah. But they're invited into homes of under-resourced families. And sometimes it's a single parent, and sometimes there's both parents there. But they come in with books, and it's a half hour twice a week. They come in, and it's a 2-year program. They read with the child. They kind of help the parent learn how to interact with their child as well. And they become, in most cases, very good friends to the parents and the child. Sometimes they're going to their ball games or dance recitals or things like that. But yeah, I think it's a great ministry and so important. Kids, under-resourced kids, 82% of them are not ready for kindergarten. And so a ministry like this helps to bridge the gap and help them accelerate so they are ready.
Yeah. And it's called Live Inspired. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Do you know where we can find them on the interwebs?
liveinspired.us.
Okay, liveinspired.us if that's something that interests you. Thanks so much for sharing, Ron.
Sure.
Also, we've got some stuff going on that I simply cannot forget to tell you about, okay? What day is it? It's Friday. Next Thursday, we will be having some desserts with our friend Josh Moody. He comes on to this show probably every 6 weeks or so and shares with us. He's from a college church in Wheaton, Illinois. So if you want to meet Dr. Josh Moody, if you want to meet Daria and Brian and myself, text the word Moody to 440-546-2255. Not many tickets left. I know that another round of emails is going out today to those who have won, so be sure to check your emails today. If you would like to be a part of that, text Moody to 440-546-2255. I also have some very exciting news, people. Ron, can we get exciting music? I don't know what that would be, but exciting music?
Yeah, hang on a second.
Anything that you feel is exciting. No exciting sounds today. It is Friday. It's hard to get excited on Fridays. Oh my gosh. Okay.
That works.
I like this. This is my vibes. We have our winners for the Brandon Lake concert. Okay, everyone ready? The winners are Stephen in Avon, Janet in Uniontown, Paula in Barberton, Leslie in Avon, and Annie in Medina.
Woo-hoo.
Yay! Yay, winners.
Yay, winners.
So you should
Can I
have
your
heard.
ticket?
No.
No? Okay.
You should have heard from me this morning, either by email or text that you won. So very exciting. Be sure to check your emails and text if you entered to win those Brandon Lake tickets. Isn't that exciting? Don't worry, we're going to have more giveaways coming up in the next couple weeks for more concerts and more things happening around our area. This is Mornings with Brian. It's Follow-Up Friday. What do you want to talk about? Call or text 440-546-2255. We got Pastor Leonard Tanks. He can answer your questions.
Yo.
He can answer all your Bible questions.
Yeah.
Text 440-546-2255. We'll be right back after this break.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to supportive listeners and Hawkins Sales. They've been serving the electrical industry nationwide for over 30 years. More information about Hawkins Sales is at hawkinssales.com.
You know, you see a huge group of people and maybe they're in line to do something and they seem happy about it. You have to wonder, okay, what am I missing? What's going on here? What are these people excited about? Well, in this case, it's thousands of people and they're joining Medi-Share. Why? Well, Medi-Share is a much more affordable alternative to health insurance. It's reliable, too. It's a well-run community of Christians. They've been sharing each other's medical expenses for more than 30 years, so it's proven. And if you switch, you'll likely save hundreds of dollars a month. Most members wind up paying about half what they used to. And you know what? They find they like it better. Medi-Share's member satisfaction rate is 98%. That's way better than health insurance, as you might imagine. You don't have to pay for things you don't believe in. You get telehealth 24/7, huge freedom in choosing your doctors. At least check into it. This may be one of those things where you're like, why didn't I do this a long time ago? Why not start saving now? Call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Helping you take the next step in your walk with Jesus. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Jeremy Camp on Mornings with Brian. You got Ron, Daria, me, Lauren, and Pastor Leonard Tanks here today.
What's goody, yo?
What's goody, yo? Brian's out today. He's in Chicago for his spiritual formation weekend. So I'm really excited for him. Excited to hear how it goes on Monday. They're kind of finishing that journey, that 2-year journey up. So that is where he is. So you're stuck with us. But that's okay. We're having fun, I think. Okay. Guess not.
Sure. We're having fun. The coffee hasn't kicked in
Bunch
yet.
of losers. Okay. This week we talked about the Christian case against Ring by Spring. Daria, could you give us a recap of what Ring by Spring is?
So apparently this is an issue across generations and colleges, but at particularly Christian colleges, there's this desperation for a lot of the students to find their spouse while they're there and to get married very, very young. I think we all know people that got married in college or directly after.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so the thought of Ring by Spring is you know, start school in the fall and then you're already engaged by the springtime.
And so according to this article, and I don't think any of us were surprised by this, a driving factor behind this is sex.
Yeah.
These young people, they want to have sex. It's been kind of idolized by them or people in their lives. And so, like, I need to get married young and I need to have sex now.
The person that wrote this article, I actually went to Moody with them. Like, I personally know them. Not like they were best friends, but I know them. I know their name. I've spoken to them before. And so that was their experience. That was my experience. People joke around, call it Moody Bridal Institute, or you're getting your MRS degree. Okay. Pastor Tanks, what do you make of all of this? What do you think? Just based upon reading the article and our thoughts about it, any texts we got?
I probably won't share all my thoughts. I'm going to have to ask like more specific questions, I think. But I think marriage is good. I don't think that, and I also my personal position is I also not a huge fan of like the forever dating because we feel like we're too young and we need to wait for 10 years.
That's
like I'm not a super fan of that. I think you set yourself up for failure. I don't think I think you can only fall deeply in love with somebody and walk with any type of purity and integrity for so long, for so many years. So I'm not a super fan of like the long engagements either. But I'm also not a fan of people just getting married solely so they can have intercourse with one another. I think that any pressure put on a person to do that is not acceptable, is not right. But I do think that I don't know. I think culturally, I wonder what impact today's culture has versus the biblical culture. And what I mean by that is, I'm not sure God's design ever was for like the time, like when we biblically we see like right or wrong. I'm not making any statements of fact here. You see marriage as being like they were young. Right. And so sometimes, you've heard these arguments where it's like when we talk about purity the way we talk about purity the way anymore, it's like, it's much harder because like they're not getting married at 7 anymore. Good in a good way. It's good. It's a good thing.
I think current generations are less mature though. So like my grandma was like I think 18, 19 when she got married, and they've been married for like almost 60 years at this point. But at 19, I was not mature enough to get married. And I think that's true for a lot of 19-year-olds. I know some where they did get married at 19, and for some of them it's worked out, but I think that might be part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I probably, I think, I know, as somebody who has just walked with just way too many marriages, in my personal opinion, I do think, I think maturity plays a role in marriage. I also think preparation plays a huge role. Yeah. Because I don't think anybody's mature enough for marriage personally. I think marriage matures you. Because I think everybody in here knows that. It's like I was mature as a person, but definitely not mature in this thing called oneness. This thing is different, right? Yeah. But but I do agree. I agree. I guess I would have to agree that they're not as mature, or maybe the life values and principles. I think maybe back in biblical culture, like that was kind of like the thing, especially dealing with shame culture. As a woman, it was like be married, have kids, and so they were kind of discipled into that at a very young age to be prepared for that. Whereas that's not necessarily, I think, what goes on in our culture anymore. Is more is dangerously moving away from family and marriage altogether, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And there's nothing wrong, I think, inherently in getting married young. Like I was 23 when I got married, not too far removed from college. But a problem is, I think, where these young people's heads are. Like, they're getting married because they want to honor God and they want to save themselves for marriage. So their solution to this problem is, I'll just get married, and because I want to have sex, not because I want to honor this person, not because I want to serve this person. It's kind of very selfish.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think if the motivation is sex, I think you're just asking for problems. You're asking for multiple wives at some point in your life. If the motivation is sex, I do wonder. And this isn't like an absolute. I do wonder. We on air. I don't want to. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Hypothetically, I wonder if you have two people who already love each other, right? Let's say they've been dating 6 or 7 months, love each other, but for some reason they've placed this timeline expectation of marriage. Like, oh, we'll wait a year and a half or 2 years. They love each other, know they want to be married, but they also find themselves not like consistently just falling in purity, but randomly they may have a time of falling. I do wonder if for them, obviously honoring God and abstaining is the truth and fact, period. But I do wonder, it's like, hey, did you place a timeline on yourselves? Which typically, even when I talk to those individuals, these timelines aren't anything they even prayed about. It's really like cultural, like be together for a year, then save up to have this much money, then do this, and then you get married. And it's like, yeah, I don't think I think some of that matters, but I wonder if you notice it's the person y'all know y'all want to be married, and now you struggling with purity even more, because all of us know, and we and my wife, we waited till marriage. But I could tell you 2-3 months out from the wedding day, it was harder. The more I loved her, the more I got to know her, the more I desired intimacy with her beyond just communication, the harder it got to stay pure, the more the thoughts roam, the more the desires, the more the, you just unnecessary touches for no reason. Just like the more that happened, and it was like, I was like, man, there's no way we made it another 5 months. Like, it just wasn't about to happen for us. So I do wonder sometimes if these worldly expectations of timelines does produce unnecessary purity issues. But the context of this article doesn't seem to be that either. It seems to be what you're saying when I'm reading the article, like, hey, listen, we want to honor God, so let's just get married so we don't fall. But it's not like, really, I want to honor you, and I'm trying to honor you already, and I desire you, and I want to be with you, and hey, maybe this is time to get married. I don't know. What's your thoughts, Daria?
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something. And Paul, we touched on what Paul says about, like, if you can't control your desires, then by all means get married. From my personal experience, though, a lot of the people that are like I literally have heard the statement, Jesus can't come back before I get married and have sex. These are not people that are already in committed relationships. So I think you definitely have a point, Pastor Tanks, but I also think there's also a point of maybe you have a lust issue that you need to deal with before you get married, because sex is such a small part of life. It's such a small part of marriage. There are other aspects of it.
Yeah. And I love what you just hit on. And I do, what Daria is saying is like, every situation has a context that has to be incorporated to understand, to give any sound counsel, right? So you would really have to be talking to a person to trying to figure out what's really going on there. But one of the things that Daria said is something that I think everybody just needs to understand, period. It's one of the things I tell the ladies that I have any type of influence over. And not because the men aren't as bad, but I have an expectation of male leadership. And so one of the things that I tell the ladies is I always say, listen, if they can't keep their hands off you now, they can't, and I mean, not they stumble, they struggle, but like they can't honor your body now, I would agree with you, Daria. I tell them, I say that brother has no control over his impulses, which means he won't have control over his impulses when he marries you, or you'll become the meat. You'll just become the outlet to get off these impulses when sex and intimacy is more. Now, as married people, we always, sometimes it's just what it is, right? But majority of the time, it's about intimacy and connection. It's not just, can we say the H word on here? Not like the bad H word, but the like, You got the dump button ready. I'm horny. Like, you know, I'm horny. You know what I'm saying? Are we allowed to say horny?
I'm probably not, but it's okay.
I'm sorry.
I won't.
That's fine.
All right. You know, okay, so y'all know what I'm saying.
Yes.
And now your wife becomes an object versus the time of being intimate with one another. You'll become that, and you'll become bitter, and you'll know it, because the intimacy you will know that this is not connection. This is, you got inflamed looking at some girl out there and came home and took it out on me. And so I do teach, like, no, if self-control, if they can learn to control their impulses with you prior to marriage, you have a stronger chance of that individual being able to control those impulses in marriage, because the temptation and the lust things coming at you don't shift and change, right? And so I do agree, and I tell all the ladies that, you know, like, hey, listen, if that man gonna keep putting his hands on you now, even if you want him to, he's the lead. I look at male leaders. He's not leading. He's not leading this relationship well, which makes me leery about if he can lead the relationship in a godly way in marriage, where now you have to submit to this man. Like, that's dangerous. Be careful. Think about those questions. And marriage don't take lust away. Sex don't take lust away. And so what happens when he gets inflamed and it's that time of the month? Are you on a trip? Are you visiting somewhere else? If he didn't learn how to control it when he desired you the most, he won't be able to control it when he has a desire you're not around.
Yeah, that's good. We're going to talk more about this right after this break. Call or text with any thoughts that you have, 440-546-2255.
You're leaving a legacy, but what kind? If I could do it all over again, Christian leaders share the most important lessons of their lives. Johnny Erickson Tata is an author, radio host, and founder of Johnny and Friends. Here's the truth she wants to pass on the most.
Any Bible verse that forces us Christians to think how we can keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing, I think, is best described in Romans chapter 5, verse 8, where it says, "But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us." Man, that is so the main thing. Because as the world gets further away from the Orthodox Christian faith once delivered to the saints, as the church comes up with all kinds of interpretations as to what it thinks God's love is, it is still a sin to make God in our own image. And we forget that the essence of God's love, his core plan, is to rescue sinners out of the kingdom of darkness. That means absolutely everything that happens to us, every suffering, every affliction, every hardship, disappointment in life, is meant to challenge our man-made views on the love of God. I think that's why, sitting in this wheelchair, I've come to see that affliction is what will drive us to the end of ourselves when we see the self-pity, the spirit of complaining, whining discontentment, the peevishness and sour spirit that we're made of. We are sinners. I don't care how long we've known the Lord Jesus. We are dog-nasty sinners, and suffering teaches us that the love of God is best expressed not in removing us from suffering, but in using it to expose our wicked hearts that are so in need of redemption. Boy, that's the perspective I'd like to pass on from this wheelchair of mine, keeping the main thing the main thing.
This has been a production of Moody Radio, a ministry of Moody Bible Institute, based on the book, If I Could Do It All Over Again.
If you've been thinking about a career in aviation, consider a Bachelor of Science degree in Missionary Aviation Technology from Moody Bible Institute. Flight majors earn an average of 325 flight hours, including over 100 hours of flight experience in high-performance aircraft. You'll be fully trained to get your private, instrument, and commercial pilot certification immediately after graduation. And you'll have a foundation in Bible and avionics technical training. Visit moody.edu/aviation. That's moody.edu/aviation.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
8:36 on Mornings with Brian. Brian's out today, but you have Ron and Daria and Lauren and Pastor Leonard Tanks.
You was goody, yo.
He has his own bell today. We were, before the break, talking about the Christian case against Ring by Spring. meaning you go to college and you're a freshman and you're 18 years old and you get married or you get engaged at least by April. The person who wrote this article went to Moody Bible Institute. I know them. That is my experience as well at Moody, that everyone just wants to get married. Something that I was thinking about with this article is a lot of those people who did get married like 4 seconds into the school year are now divorced.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
And
I know someone that I think they lasted less than 2 years.
Yeah. Like some of them, finish college and they maybe have like 1 year in the real world outside of college and then they get divorced. And so I think that's also something to be weary of when you're doing this and you just want to get married, whether it's because you want to be married for marriage sake or you want to be married for sex sake. That's something to think about too, is do you really know this person? Have you spent enough time, with them? Do you know their families? Do you know their friends before you're making these types of decisions to just get married right away?
I think you need to make sure you know yourself too.
It's very true.
Because, I didn't know who I was at 19, 20 years old. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I met my husband at 20, but I was nowhere near ready to get married then because I was still figuring out who I was, let alone this other person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think something I always consider, too, to what Lauren was saying is whether you get married for sex or whether you get married for love, the same work has to be put in to have a successful one. So I would much rather have the hard work because I love the person. because look, it's the same work that got to be put in to have a healthy and successful marriage. And do you guys think, because I didn't actually go to at 19, I definitely wasn't. I had a kid at 19, but I wasn't trying to have marriage. Because you guys actually, well, at least you went to Moody, and I'm sorry, you went to...
I went to a Christian school at Mount Vernon.
So do you guys think that part of the angst is that, these individuals, they go to this Christian school, so they're assuming now they're coming across a Christian man, so it's also... like, okay, I found my Christian man. Now everything's in order. Now we can get married. You think that plays a role too in like at least the thought process?
Oh yeah, definitely. There is definitely an element with some of my friends where if I don't find my spouse in college, I'll end up alone because I don't know where else I'm going to meet someone. I also know because typically really conservative backgrounds for some of these kids coming to college. Some of them, they were only, quote, allowed to go to college by their fathers in case they could not find a spouse. So I am allowing you as your father to go to school so that you can make enough money in case you don't get married and you're just destined to be a stay-at-home mom at that point.
Wow.
Well, okay. Even if you don't get married, okay, and it's okay to not get married.
Yeah.
You do need to have, some things that you can do.
Right. Of course.
You need to be able to, whether you get a job outside of the home, if you get a job, caring for people like elderly people and you're not married, you have to have skills and things that you can do. You can't just rely on someone you may or may not get married to. You can't just go into life hoping that you're going to be married so you don't learn how to do things.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of dynamic things as I'm listening, like Daria talk, you talk, personal experiences. It's like all these cases got so many different dynamics playing into them. That's kind of like just different. It's just different all around the world. I see, you know what I'm saying, and different pressures. But I agree with Lauren. Like, I think, what I don't agree with those get married books that be like, sometimes they're right. One, I'm gonna tell you. Let me tell you this: the most preyed upon people group, especially within the church, by those who look at the gospel as a means of gain, is singles that want to be married. It's so many pointless conferences that they go to and books that they get and all, and it's like you just keep paying for the same advice that ain't helped you. Because it's a need, it's a market. People want to get married. They want, you know what I'm saying? And so some of these books you read, like, I don't agree with the books that then press things like make sure they got this level of a credit score and all of these things. I think credit matters. But I just think sometimes, man, we also just got people focusing on like the wrong things. You know what I'm saying? I think, yes, have a job, especially if you're the man. right? Yeah, and women too. But I'm just saying, especially if you're a man, like you definitely gotta work, right? You ain't gotta make more money than her, but you gotta work. Even if it's at McDonald's, like you need some level of responsibility to show, you know what I'm saying, that I'll work and I'll be whatever level of provider you could be for your household.
Yeah.
And I also think like when it comes to like women, like, you know, like if you got one of the things that I love that me and my wife pressed early on was like, no matter what I'm called to do, don't lose yourself in my calling. What was your desire? What was your passion as a child growing up? You were in school when I met you working on your master's degree, which means you had a plan. What was the plan? Let's not abandon the plan, right? And you know, and by the grace of God, it's because she didn't abandon her plan that actually makes room for what God wanted to do to us when he called us to go into an urban community to plant a church, right? To take drastic pay cut on my behalf to do that. It was because she stuck with her plan that gave us the room to be church planners today, to not need to depend on the resources in an underprivileged area to be able to survive in our own lifestyle. And so, you know, and that's the beauty of like, and I don't know if I'm like going off the subject, but that's the beauty of when you understand a helpmate, right? Not a insubordinate, whatever the word is. Y'all know what I'm saying. I mean, that's why I don't like tell people I'm in school working because now they expect me to get that word right. But so funny. I was literally preaching and I came across a word in the Bible that I was like, I need to sound this thing out. And I literally just stopped preaching and everybody, I forgot what they said.
Did they shout it at you?
No,
like they told you the
they
word?
didn't know that because I wasn't at the word yet. I was reading, and as I'm reading, I saw the word coming up, and I was like, and I just stopped, and they all was looking like, what's wrong? So then I just told them, I was like, I was making sure I knew what that word was before I got to it. So, but repudiate, it was repudiate, and I was like, man, repudiate. Put it all together. Repudiate. There we go. I was like, no more NASB in the pulpit. But you know, I think like the beauty of a helpmate. You know what I'm saying? It's like because my wife had her own pursuits and desires in life, she was able to be the helpmate that God knew I would need for us to do what he would desire for us to do together. And so I to the point, I guess, of what you were saying, because I think I just started talking, is like, you should still, ladies, you should still, if you have desires, if God's placed something in you, a burden in you, pursue it. You know what I'm saying? And because whomever God is planning to pair you all together with, and I'm not talking soulmates, but I'm just saying whatever he has desired, I guarantee you what he placed in you and what he placed in him are going to have some alignment somewhere to where you guys literally begin to, each other's lifestyles will begin to complement each other in the bigger purpose of why God drew you guys together. Not to have kids, it's not the bigger purpose, but whatever his kingdom advancement purpose was for you guys was going to happen because you pursue what God had for you and your individuality. Yep. So that's my TED Talk. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. We want to know what you think about this ring by spring situation. Text or call 440-546-2255. We'll be right back after this break.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to support of listeners and Hawkins Sales. They've been serving the electrical industry nationwide for over 30 years. More information about Hawkins Sales is at hawkinssales.com.
Pastors have to make tons of decisions, including what to do to meet healthcare needs for themselves and their staff. Christian Healthcare Ministries specializes in making healthcare decisions easy and affordable. Not insurance, but a health cost sharing ministry for over 40 years. CHM opens the door for individuals, families, and yes, pastors to be a part of a biblical way to meet medical bills. Get more information and answers to your questions at chministries.org/Moody. That's chministries.org/Moody.
India Partners works to stop human trafficking, and a partnership in that work is Moody Radio. When you help rescue a girl from the red light districts of Mumbai, India, you are standing up to injustice and living out Psalm 82. It says, "Defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and oppressed." Now keep that in mind as you hear what happened to Pallavi, who was trafficked and sold at 14 years old.
She took me to a place, I don't know where, and there were a lot of men, and there is no way out.
For 8 years, sometimes as often as 15 times a day, Pallavi was abused.
Morning they used to come, afternoon they used to come, like a commodity.
So let's go right back to Psalm 82. Defend the weak and the fatherless. Uphold the cause of the poor and oppressed. Learn how you can be part of saving, maybe even changing, a young girl's life today. Go to indiapartners.org/Moody. That's indiapartners.org/Moody.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
It's Follow-Up Friday here on Mornings with Brian. We've got Pastor Leonard Tanks of Reach City Church with us today.
Hey, turn up.
He's here. We are talking about the Christian case against Ring by Spring, which is you go to college and you try to get engaged before the springtime. Okay, that's what we're talking about. We've gone all kinds of topics here about singleness, having, your desires to be married or your desire to have sex, and so you just get married real quick. We've talked about all those things. I want to hear what our listener Brandy has to say. Hi, Brandy. What's going on?
Hello. Good morning. Happy Friday.
Good morning.
Hey.
What do you think about all this?
Identity came to my mind that a lot of women don't understand that their identity is in Christ and not in the new last name or in that ring on their left finger. So I think that when we as women struggle with, J.D. Greer said it best a few years ago. He had a message about marriage, and he said that the ultimate love is not marriage. The ultimate love is Christ.
Yep, that's right.
And so I think when we have a proper perspective of I just read today, there's no greater love than this, that a man lay his life down than for his friends. So when we have a proper perspective of how deep God's love is for us, marriage is like a little picture or a little bit of showing how Christ feels about the church. But there's nothing like having a intimate relationship with Christ to really understand the depth of what love is.
Yep, absolutely. And I think we as women are more suspect to trying to find our identity in our marriage than men. What do you think?
Absolutely. It happened to me for a long time. If you made a mistake and called me by my maiden name, I was like, I'm Mrs. Williams, because I really thought my identity was in Christ because of trauma and was in my husband because of trauma and different things. But as I've grown in my relationship with the Lord and really am maturing in my faith, I'm noticing before Paul says things like, wives, submit to your husbands, he always talks about Christian character first.
Yeah.
So he wants to develop in me the fruit of the Spirit, and then that translates into my wifing. But first, he's dealing with me and my own character as his child first.
Yeah, he's dealing with you as a person before he's dealing with you as a person who's married.
Amen.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of sometimes in church, I think we put marriage on a hierarchy. It's very important, but I think we kind of make single women think that they're less than. But Paul also says in 1 Corinthians that singleness is a gift and marriage is a gift, and learn how to possess your own gift.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think we often put marriage and even sex on as an idol in our lives, whether we really know it or not. Because a lot of times in our culture, especially Christian culture, we've said that these things are so good, which they are, but we've made them maybe better than God, better than Jesus himself. We want to be in these things. We want to be a part of these things, and we kind of lose sight of who Jesus is.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. It's such a good conversation. Thanks for letting me chime in.
Yeah, Brandy, you always have the best stuff to say, so we're probably always going to let you on when you call in. Daria, do you think we could send her some fun stuff?
Sure, stay on the line, Brandy. I'll get your address.
Thanks so much, Brandy. Daria will get you some stuff to share. We'll share some stuff with you, Mornings Brian stuff. What do you think, Pastor Tanks?
No, I agree. I think all of that is really good. Identity matters. Even at 1 Corinthians 7, Paul is saying, be content in whatever state you are in.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you don't have to desire something different, but it's recognizing that wherever you are at, right? And he adds even for the slave in there, right? People, we always add that one out, but he says about that person too, right? Is still understanding who I am regardless of wherever I'm at in life. And being content in Christ in that position until Christ changes that position for us. And so, yeah, I think identity matters. you know, I still remember, man, when we got married. How much time we got? I still remember when I got married. You know, there was like a grieving period that my wife had to go through. You know what I'm saying? Just in like, I remember tears at the social, what's the little place you got to go
to get your certificate. Yeah.
No, to get your name changed.
Oh yeah, the Social Security office.
Yeah, like I remember like tears in there. You know what I'm saying? Because she was a whole human before marriage, right? Yeah. And it was the thought process of like, wait, this is a change. Like, you know, I'm becoming one with another person, right? Which is critical to say, that speaks to separate identities, right? It's two become one, right? And so you are you and he is he, or vice versa. But then you come together as one, but you still have identities. And so I do think anybody that doesn't know who they are first runs the risk of that relationship. It really becoming you guys talked about it when it came to like parents and things, like it becomes a codependent, whatever. I forgot that article we were talking about.
Yeah.
And it was
that's
like,
a great word.
It becomes a codependent relationship because I don't know who I am apart from you, because I never understood it. I'm dependent on you for all things. And if you don't give me any of those things, I break apart and I don't know who I am. And so I think that everybody should do that, should do that work. And so, yeah, if you're 18 years old and you don't know that, then, yeah, maybe you do need to figure that out first and then be like, okay, now that I had some type of understanding of who I am, maybe I'm ready for marriage. But I definitely think if you don't know who you are, that probably would be a red flag to not get married. I would agree.
Yeah. We had someone text in when we talked about this earlier this week. Paul wasn't always single. He was a Pharisee, and in order to be a Pharisee, he had to be married. What happened to his wife, we don't know. She may have died. They may have gotten divorced, so we don't know how much his life he spent with the Lord being married versus an unmarried man. So he can speak on both halves. Do you know anything about Paul? And it was a requirement or highly suggested that Pharisees be married, but do we know anything about his history in that way?
Yeah, that seems a little spotty for me. I probably wouldn't
go. We wouldn't say he was married.
I wouldn't go with that as fact. I'm not, off the top of my head, I don't even recall that being a fact that they had to be married either. But it could have been. I'm a little spotty on the Pharisee, education. But I would take Paul at his word and not add our own understanding. Like, definitely wouldn't say Paul was divorced. Like, he could have been, but we don't know. Nobody knows if he was married. Nobody knows if he was divorced. Paul
or if his wife died or something.
Or if his wife, like, Paul don't tell us.
We don't need to add to his story.
Paul just says, whatever he is, he's single. And he don't got no desire not to be.
Yeah. And he had multiple opportunities to speak from personal experience to whoever he was writing to if he was married, and he never did.
He never did. So I would probably just not make the assumption. That's where we get in trouble. Yeah. And just say, listen, Paul wasn't. He urged in Corinthians that he wished some would stay like he was. He told the Ephesus women that they need to stop trying to be young widows and go get married and have children and manage households. Paul spoke situationally, right? Into different cities, there were different circumstances that were going on that informed why he was given the instructions that he was given to in these different cities. And so I think we just take Paul at his words, take Paul at his context, and don't try to add to it. That's where we get into trouble. But I'm not even sure about it could be a fact. I'm not sure about even that they had to be married to be Pharisees. I haven't studied the Pharisees in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
They're Pharisees.
Because they're Pharisees. We don't want to study them. So who knows? But if Paul wanted to share that he was married, I'm sure that he would have if it had brought benefit to the message he was bringing. But he didn't. He shared that he was single, and that adds to that benefits the things that he was sharing. So we're about to get to our Friday song. So we're wrapping up here our follow-up Friday with Pastor Leonard Tanks of Reach City Church and Ron and Daria and me, Lauren. Text or call any last-minute quick questions, 440-546-2255.
it's gonna be soon. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? And when we all get to heaven, that's the day when we'll be shouting. Oh, that's the day when that we're gonna be so glad. Oh, we were ready. Are you ready? Are you ready? Listen, do you know him as your King, Lord and Savior of everything? Are you ready? 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 When we all get up to heaven, that's the day when we'll all be shouting, 'cause we'll be so glad, oh, so glad we were ready. Are you ready? Are you ready? I can't wait for that day. No more trouble, it's all gone away. I can't wait to see my Savior's face. Are you ready? Are you ready? Would your soul be lost if he came back today? Oh, got my bags all ready, 'cause I don't wanna be on that day, I just wanna be ready on that day. Oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. And oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. Oh, be ready. Oh, when it cracks the sky. Oh, will we meet in the great dark night? I like that.
That was, of course, our Friday song, Are You Ready? By Jason Champion, Cleveland's very own. Thanks so much for joining us today on this Follow-Up Friday. We hope you enjoyed your time. Thanks to Pastor Tanks from Reach City Church for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. You know, I love it here always.
That's right. If you want to find out more about your church, go to Reach. Is it Reach Church, Reach City Church? Oh, gosh. You have so many.
Online is reachchurchcle.com. On Facebook is Reach City Church, and on Instagram is Reach Church CLE, and on YouTube is Reach City Church Cleveland.
Right.
Let's go! We'll put it all
Just
in
come
there.
to us.
Do you have an email address?
No more.
Office
Any
at
more.
reachchurchcle.
reachchurchcle.com.